racing right now.
He's got traction, he got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
We are going full length one final time in 2020 in the NASCAR iRacing Series. The Southern 500 from Darlington Raceway, 367 laps, 500 miles around a track that is just too tough to tame. You'll see all of the action live right here on the iRacing Esports Network, presented by SimSpeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones. Alongside of me, Justin Prince, Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, working the cameras over the course of the show. And Justin, going to settle in here for a long haul race. It's going to be really tough on these drivers. And those right sides probably not going to come back as clean as they went out.
Absolutely. This is a track for a good reason. They call Too Tough to Tame. It's a track that eats tires. It's a track where you have the famous Darlington stripe, and you have the chance of potential attrition throughout an entire run of 367 laps throughout the evening. It's not easy to drive around Darlington. You have to be so close to the wall in a lot of cases to carry the most amount of speed throughout an entire run. It's going to be intriguing, Ryan, to see which teams can survive tonight's action and in turn have the quickest car to run all the way from sunset all the Remember, that was to make sure it didn't disturb at the time of the construction of the racetrack a minnow pond that was set up at the west side of the property of that time. And these drivers tonight are going to be really challenged to make sure they don't slam the walls. Turn 2 has been known for drivers to smack that wall as it jumps out at you as the night progresses, as your tire wear starts to settle on in. As well, drivers, in several cases already this week, Ryan, have crashed off of Turn 4 and collected several others down the front straightaway. There's a potential for a lot of attrition. Overall, track position is going to be important. Long run speed is going to be important. Tire management is going to be important. And how you play your tire sets is going to be extremely important tonight.
Certainly will. It's going to be a longer race. How many tire sets do they have available to them, Justin, today?
Well, they have 13 total. That includes 12 in the pits, as well as the set that's on the car. So, when you consider that, you have two different strategies drivers have been considering throughout the week. There's the aggressive strategy trying to pit it about lap 50 or 60-ish. There's others who try and stretch it all the way to the end of the field run. So there's two different game plans we may see tonight, but it all depends again on where the runs come in and how things shape up with the caution flags. For example, on Wednesday night, there were cautions every 20 laps in the early going before they got a more than 100 lap run to end off that race. While on Thursday, in top split action, they had about less than 100 laps to the end with one green flag pit stop to make it on fuel.
13 tie sets. I don't see any way that any of us are going to actually be able to keep track of that by the time we get to the end of the race and know who does and doesn't have tie sets available, but definitely something to keep in mind over the course of the race. Malik Ray currently fastest for the 26.734, 600ths quicker than Jose Solis Jr. And here's Harrison Lyon, or Nathan Lyon, depending on which account he runs on, as he completes his lap and doesn't put a time down. Curious.
Neither time, actually. So, Nathan Lyon with a rough qualifying run. And again, if you take the wall at all during your qualifying run, that disallows said time. Both times happen to Lyon, so he'll have to start towards the back. Meanwhile, many of these drivers electing not to qualify, it seems, or at least waiting to see how the temperatures play out. It is fairly cool for this race this evening. Many of these cars as well are set up more for the nighttime. So keep that in mind as many of these drivers try and start up at the front early and lead some laps, and then have to adjust as the track conditions change as we go from sunrise to late afternoon, I should rather say, to sunset, all the way to the full darkness as Patrick Moots tries to bring that silver machine on board the sun.
The track evolution really got ramped up on another level when we were able to bring in the transition from day to night to the iRacing service, and this is one of those places where you see it in full effect as we start under the light of day and finish under the cover of darkness. Matt Busa, he's going to come across the line, and will he register a time on that attempt? No, he doesn't either. So a few of them are nicking the fence out there, maybe intentionally, just trying to get some practice in or some last minute testing, and they want to start from the back though. A few Coke Series drivers come to play today.
Yeah, and remember, the Coke Series goes to this track on Tuesday, so it's not a surprise. Michael Guest actually dominated in his respective top split race on Wednesday night, led more than 200 laps in that regard. Tonight, Malik Ray, as we talked about in tonight's action, as well Matt Busa. We've seen Kane Cook. He's also expected to be quick. Nathan Lyon also expected to be very quick, as we've seen him go up 20, 30 spots in some cases in the span of 15, 20 laps. It's going to be a fun one tonight, Ryan. Let's see how they start.
Malik Ray on the pole, Jose Solis Jr. outside row 1, Caden Rush and Garrett Main starting from 3rd and 4th. Boyd Hogan, who's been a regular in the series all season and even came to join us in the comments box a few weeks ago, will start from 5th. Tony Baldridge from 6th. Tommy Gossett and Seth Knoll 7th and 8th. Andrew Skalenic starting from 9th, and Patrick Moose lines up in 10th.
Wesley Pistol starts in 11th. Matthew Benson, normally don't see him in NASCAR competition, starting in 12th at the 27.364. The last drivers to qualify, Joshua Campbell and Thomas Keane. Then everyone else set by iRating. Tyler Justice, Matt Busa, Timo Toika for Nexus, Justin Levine, David Brown. Among your top 20 starters, JD Willis also gets bumped up, should note. Lyon has elected to go all the way to the very back. He's in the 30s overall on the board.
Starting from 21st, you've got Kane Cook, regular in high-level NASCAR competition on iRacing. In fact, I'm not convinced by how that grid is being lined up on your screen, but that's close to how they'll be lining up on the grid today. I've got a slightly different order on iRacing.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Powell, Hernandez, Hickson, Bridgman, Ryder, Green, Crump, Ippolito, Landis. Then it's Lyon, Cook, and Bollinger. They all elected to go to the very back behind all the drivers sorted by iRating. But as you see with the weather conditions, 84 degrees is the track temp, Fahrenheit, 79 degrees the air temp. That's 29 degrees Celsius track and 26 Celsius for the air. Also fairly windy, currently gusting about 5-6 miles an hour, about 8 or 9 kilometers an hour. And remember, more than 700 kilometers on the docket, approximately about 500 miles, 481 on the dot, with 367 laps for this evening. Gonna be a wild one this evening to see which teams can do tonight.
It's going to be a long race as we roll off behind our iRacing Ford Mustang pace car, ready to get set for 367 laps around Darlington Raceway. It's a 5,302 strength of field, so these are some of the best in iRacing, and some of them are the best, with a few entries from the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting how this all shapes out. You know, Ray was testing some stuff on Wednesday night. Just curious to see how his testing worked out. Maine's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out As well as a lot of good driver or surprising drivers with good track position. Baldridge, Gossett, Noel looking to try and take advantage after their good qualifying sessions. Keep in mind, though, a lot of these Coke drivers are going to be cutting through the field and quick.
500 miles. It's a Southern 500. It's full length of the NASCAR iRacing Series. Ready to go green from Darlington Raceway. In the hands of Mally Gray on the pole. At a turn 4 we roll. And it's the green flag from Darlington. Away we go. What a jump from Mally Gray.
And already Hickson going way off to the apron. Everybody else with a clean run line off into the corner. Exactly the start these drivers wanted. Single file. You have to go through this corner because it can be so tight on turn 2.
Exits of 2 and 4. Probably going to be our trouble spots today. As 3, 3, and 4 we run, you can see everyone running as high as they dare. The later we get into the race, the higher they'll get. Closer to that fence, the more they'll push the issue there. But certainly early on, you're going to leave a little bit of margin between the right side of your car and that outside safe barrier. At some point, though, you're going to have to bite the bullet and probably cop that Darlington stripe from Lady in Black.
Right now, early on in a run such as this, it's not going to be too much of a factor. It's just about trying to maintain pace, try and get some track position, then settle in for the long haul. You're going near full throttle, in fact, just about full throttle around the track at this point, trying to stick it around like Seth Knoll here to try and get passes, as well as gain time, but eventually you're going to have to lift and/or start to drag the brakes, especially in turn 3, to make sure you can make the corner without smacking that said wall that you're referring to.
As soon as you go side by side, it really slows you up here at Darlington, a lot more than some other racetracks. And as Seth Knoll got by Tommy Gossett there, it checked up a bunch of guys right behind, and it's led to even back here, Matt Busa now right on the back of Leslie Pistol. Busa already +3 since the start of this race, and now with a run out of turn 2, he'll pull to the inside of Pistol and try to get this one done into 3, and he does, and slides up in front of him on the exit of the corner.
And again, this is valuable track time for these drivers for the Coke Series to test out how their cars may fare out. Similar track conditions to what they'll see on Tuesday. Many of these battles are always seeing Busa just cut on by these drivers like they're standing still. The leader cars are running 27.3s. The back of the fielders already down to the 28-second bracket.
27.6 for Busa. So he's pretty much in the middle there. In the middle of the field as well. On board with Harrison Lyon. Where do you go at this point? Well, don't go any more left because there'll be contact down there. He's managed to clear him, and he is pretty in tune with that race car. Knows exactly where he can position that number 6 Ford Mustang.
And keep in mind, when you especially go to the inside in 1 and 2, you expect that driver on the top line to try and let up and give you the space because it's so dangerous to enter the corner side by side because you risk getting squeezed up in the wall. So don't be surprised to see several lifts as Boyd Hogan, Thursday afternoon's top split winner, is up to a decent start, still holding on to the top 5 in the lead pack, separated by 1.3 seconds up at the front and already 2 seconds away from everyone else.
Top 5 have done a good job to break away from the rest of the pack. Johnny Baldridge running in 6th at the moment, leading that second group, if you will. Some of our biggest movers early on. It is Harrison Lyon +8. Kane Cook is +10 though, from 31st to 21st. And here's Matthew Benson, who's actually dropped a spot since the start of this race. That is Kane Cook, running just in front of Harrison Lyon.
And basically, at the way it's shaping out, especially for some of these drivers, you're just following the leader, so to speak, of your respective pack. If someone tries to make a move...
Whoa! Harrison Lyon! Harrison Lyon catches it. What a save from that number 6. It all stemmed as Joshua Campbell got very close to the fence. And we'll need a replay of that one. He had his hands full.
Yeah, take a look at this. We just talked about you expect the driver up top to lift when you got a major run. Lion did that because Cook opened up the hole. Lion trying to follow suit. Campbell tapped the wall, and Lion just about scrapes him there and just saves it. Just got a bit of right front damage, however, that's going to slow him down just a little bit. Lost him all this track position. He's back now in 26th.
Only 4 cars behind Joshua Campbell, though, so he'll get there pretty quickly. On board with Matt Buser, who's worked his way now up into 7th position on the racetrack, and that is Johnny Baldridge that he is staring at the moment. And Baldridge is going to go low, and he's going to allow Matt Buser to go by him down the back straight. Buser's now about 4.5 seconds away from that leading group of 5. So a big pace disparity it would seem between the top 5 and the rest of the field, with some of those really fast guys still trying to work their way towards the front. Booster's just got there, but there's plenty of drivers stacked up at the moment on a track where it is pretty hard to pass.
Especially on the longer runs, but if you have the car, in terms of long run pace, you're likely going to be flying around this racetrack to be able to make moves. It's more so, I think, you want to set up a pass, though, in 1 and 2 than you do in 3 and 4 line, because, as we talked about before tonight's race, you don't want to really be on the bottom off the exit of turn 4. You can use that line single file, but not so much off. But if you get a runoff 4, and then dive into the inside in turn, force the driver above you to left off to get the spot, that's where you can gain that said spot and make a pass. So that's where that give and take really settles on in, especially with it being such a long race tonight. Expect a lot of that here. Here comes Justice for the move for the top 10.
And Tommy Gossett will lift off, and by lifting off, it allows Wesley Pistol to go by him as well. And he won't keep his momentum until they get on the back straight. So they're going to give and take on the racetrack. Look at the sun already, and we're not even really at the point where it gets low enough to be right in your eyes later on. Give and take on the racetrack, but with the setup as well. Oh, hang on, a bit of a stack up here as someone was a bit loose out of turn 2. That was the 8th car of Tommy Gossett? No, I've lost
No,
bearings.
it was Baldridge who ended up losing some control off turn 4. Then Patrick Moose also got loose off the corner, nearly got hit by the cars behind. And now it became chaos as here comes Levine trying to gain some spots. All while this is held up Noel, and he's now going backwards in the 8 car in his throwback.
Yeah, I saw Noel getting a bit sideways. They've just about gathered that up. But with the setup, when you're running this close to the fence, Justin, are you looking for a tight or a loose setup?
I've heard a lot of drivers wanting to be more on the looser side, honestly, because again, loose is fast. And in turn, it means you're able to rotate if you can handle the looseness. If you're more tighter, it means you'll have to let off the corner more, and in turn, risk smacking that wall, like we've seen in that scenario, and in turn, that can hurt you. And now Noel, as a result, has some damage to the right front, and guess what? He's now got a parachute attached to his car. He's already lost several spots after that.
Very high average speed around this racetrack. Any bit of damage is really going to hurt you here, as opposed to, say, one of your short tracks. Hold on to it, Seth. A bit loose as you clip the apron out of 2 there. If, say, being loose is definitively faster than being tight, but you're more comfortable with the tight setup, would you still go for the tight one? With it being such a long race, you need to be comfortable, don't you?
Yeah, you want to be comfortable, you want it to be drivable, but you also want to, if you want to compete for the win, to be fast, so to speak.
So you got to take a risk.
You have to, more so Ryan, balance it out to where some drivers in some groups, they may get a similar setup to one another, but others, they like to build their own setups, their own preferences, or adjust set baselines for their groups to their own preferences. So it's about finding that balance to what you prefer as a driver, and in turn being able to capitalize on it to your respective driving style around the racetrack. As we take a look at the battle between one of the Nexus cars and one of the LaRue cars, LaRue looking very strong early on in this race with Wesley Pistol.
He is. He's doing very well at the moment. And having that ability to adjust your setups to your preferences as the caution comes out for the first time today here on lap 19.
I think it's Keenan Lyon. Yeah, both of them went tumbling down the running order with the caution flag. Think something happened down the backstretch with Keen specifically, and Lyon ended up hitting the back end, just the side door of him, in fact, as he hit the wall and then went across the racetrack.
Motum simulation replay. This is Thomas Keane in that 27 bright red machine. Harrison Line just the back of the shot on the right-hand side. So out of turn 2, whacks the fence. The 83 just misses and Harrison Line has nowhere to go. Whoa! That was a fortunate tap with the inside fence, I think, from Line. It saved him spinning back up to the racing line, but bit of damage to his car that might prove pretty critical in the grand scheme of this race as we see pit stops for the first time today.
By the way, we were talking about caution splits. This is right on the money for what the average was in the first half of these races this week in top split action. About 20 laps for the first half of the race. Seeing this right here, and at this point, at this track, Ryan, if you try 2 tires, you're likely spinning. Expect everyone to take 4 tires, even on a 5-6 lap run if they duck down.
Race off pit road, the Radiant Energy 51 car will lead them. That's Marley Gray. Jose Solis Jr. retains second. Caden Rush, Garrett Maines, Boyd Hogan, your top 5. So that's our first caution into the books. Seth Knoll still sat on pit road. Remember that damage you highlighted as being a parachute. He'll be looking to get all of that repaired. Luckily at Darlington, you've got quite a bit of time between the pace car coming around to complete a lap in order to get that repaired. Thomas Key and Harrison Line also repairing their damage. And then the point I was making just before that caution came out, Justin, that's why it's so important to have knowledge with setup building or have someone available to you with that knowledge. Failing that, of course, this being the open setup series, there is fixed setup as well. The downside to fixed setup, Justin, is you can't adjust it to your liking, and if you prefer one condition to the other, well, you've got to tough it out for that week if the fixed setup is not how you want it.
Now, let me put it this way. The difference in fall-off for this race tonight in the first 20 laps, about a second or so. For some of the top cars, maybe about a second and a half. If you run a fixed set compared to that, you get up to 3 seconds nearly. All the way to the 29-second bracket, the high 29s, mind you, because it's much more tighter where you have to let it roll. That's why I talked about you want to be more on the looser side to be able to rotate more and carry more speed into the corner, specifically in turn 3, otherwise you're going to get eaten alive from behind.
You tried to run a fixed set, didn't you, earlier this week at an open series?
It didn't go well. Let's put it that way. It didn't go well. I tried everything I could, honestly, that was the Wednesday night race, actually. That's in reference to for top split, to loosen the car up, and it actually made it tighter as the run went on. Because it was already at the very minimum for the tire pressures at the time, so that just shows, again, you need to be able to adapt to the setup and be able to be really efficient with tire saving if you run on the fixed side. On the open side, that's extremely valuable, but also, at the same time, you need to have the setup knowledge to make sure your car is good on long run, good for tire management, fits your style, and is also fast.
Lights out, 1 degree on the pace car. Somewhere on this racetrack, I spotted earlier, there's a sign that says Visit Myrtle Beach. If you want to do that, you can only do it now in iRacing. It's unfortunately been closed down in real life. I love the Myrtle Beach circuit. It's actually where I got my first ever truck series win on iRacing. And its legacy will live on in iRacing, just like Oran Park here in Australia. Now a residential suburb, but it was scanned before it was demolished as well.
Fortunately, just a few weeks ago, it said its goodbyes, and I know it was something that really touched a lot of hearts and touched a lot of the drivers in the racing community. Of course, its operations moving to another facility now, but its memory lives on in iRacing as Ray tries to live to the green flag.
A good job once again as they flash through the 1 and 2, quickly up to full racing speed. A few cars still side by side. Now they sort themselves out down the back straight. Johnny Balderidge has got Tyler Justice on his inside. He's going to lift off and let Justice pick up P7.
Yeah, and the biggest loser off that jump, Ryan, was Garrett Maines. He was in the wrong gear, apparently, on the start, potentially 3rd gear. Lost him several positions, and now he's got several cars quickly gaining. Here's Jonathan Hernandez now stuck.
This is awkward.
As Pistol lost several spots off the jump as well. This is going to be dangerous.
Sean Powell on the inside of Hernandez. They were 2 by 2 a moment ago. Now it's just 2 by 1. 2 by 2 again. As Pistol now gets to the inside of Benson. This is 13th place. Finally, Hernandez gets the run and is able to clear Powell. And they now go single file. Timu Toika had a front row seat to all of that. And happily just sat behind as he just tagged the fence. As I talked to him about him there, so he's picked up his stride. Matt Busa is flying. Remember, he worked his way up, got himself into 6th. They were a long way off the leaders though. Now he's got a free kick right onto their back bumpers, purple, last time around.
And at this point, if you were watching this broadcast and racing on Tuesday, you're going in here and taking some notes. This car is the fastest car on the track by a 10th or 2 a lap than anybody else. Already has the fastest lap of the race overall as well. It seems in the daylight it's really strong, and everyone's just let him on go, knowing that difference in pace, including these two you see here. They didn't even try and fight Busa, knowing how quick that machine is tonight.
Caden Rush made a mistake when Busa got by him, almost drifted up into his left rear, and that's what cost him the spot to Boyd Hogan, as he had to very quickly backpedal to avoid contact. You see how Ray runs the top, Solis Jr. runs down low, and Matt Busa says, I'll run the top and drive around you.
Now
Clean air is pretty important, and that's why I think Solis Jr. went down low. But also, do you think he wanted to let Busa pass there?
I mean, when you have a rocket just passing one by, you may as well just watch and try and learn to see what you can pick up on, because Matt Busa is just quicker on apex off, it seems, than anybody else, can carry more speed on entry, at least on the short run. Now it becomes the true test, how this fares out between Ray and Busa, since these two cars are going to be likely what we may see, if not a bit more, on Tuesday, a bit more quicker in turn 2.
I don't think there's any defending this for Malik Ray. If we wanted to continue down the rabbit hole of setup talk, day versus night are polar opposites. Busa's car is lightning right now. It might not be that good when it gets under sunset and nighttime.
Indeed curious. By the way, Patrick Moose blew up down the back straightaway last time by. He may be your first DNF of the night. Just grenaded the motor, and now he's stuck crawling into pit road and forced to take a tow right there as the leaders still continue to scrap with the different lines.
Down on pit road though, so no caution. We'll stay green here at Darlington, lap 31 of 367. Matt Busa now has just stemmed his charge a little bit as he settles in behind Malik Ray. Here's a replay.
Yeah, and take a look at this. Absolutely loose in the corner. My goodness. Busa's right on the very edge, and was talking about this actually with one of the co-drivers on setup philosophy. If you know something's going to be fast, you're likely going to be using that. Busa's using whatever it takes to be fast tonight, and he's using that bottom line in 3 and 4. We discussed a bit that a few drivers in the Coke Series have been known to use in 3 and 4 in the mid-run.
How's that affect tyre life? If you're going to run the low line through 3 and 4 in the middle of your stint, theoretically, you're going to be using more of the tyres, aren't you? You're turning the car more.
In theory, yes, as well, though I think it's also partly just trying to gain some speed on apex, as Johnny Baldridge, you've seen there having some trouble down the back straightaway.
Yeah, he was well down on the apron, about 10 car widths below the normal racing surface, it looked like, and now he's up top, squeezed between Justin Levine and the safer barrier. Levine goes by, so does Tommy Gossett. Matthew Benson's in there. Jonathan Hernandez is looking for a spot on Benson now. Pistol, Lion. The next two as well. Lion, though, is a lap down, turned around. The 4 into the fence. The fence catches him, and he now keeps it straight. We stay green, but that's damage to Benson's car. and the front rudder pistol.
And it looked like Benson was actually trying to back up there, Ryan, to try and let the car underneath go. But the problem was, I don't think the 24 pistol realized that. Tried to arc it in for the entry to get underneath, just hit his left rear. And up into the wall goes Benson. Great save. And for Lyon, who's already 3 laps down, that could have been a race over right there.
This is almost a test session for Harrison Lyon now. The downside being he's got a lot of damage, which might taint some of his results in terms of testing for the Cup Series. There's still something to be learned. There's always something to be learned out there.
You still want to get knowledge at least on if you get in a situation where your car is damaged, how are you going to react in a real-world scenario? Testing your pit entries, trying to test how your temps will be, trying to make sure you get as much data and telemetry as you can for specific scenarios, and that, I think, might be the case for Lyon at this point, despite the damage on the car. Meanwhile, we look on board with Timo Toyota, and up to the front we go, because Ray, like we've seen about 15 laps into the first run of the race, is starting to run away a bit. He gained a 10th last time by.
Yeah, Booster's car was really fast up until the point where he got to the rear bumper of Malik Ray. And he's sort of lost that edge, hasn't he?
A little bit, and I'm thinking again, Booster's really good on the short, and this again was the true test. How would that car react at this point of the run, where Ray started to kick it up a notch? Keep in mind, this is still fairly early in tonight's action. We're not even at 7 p.m. in sim time yet. As Ray scrapes a bit of the wall there with the back end of just a touch bit of damage, believe we've seen there. Maybe just to avoid it getting any significant damage, though, with that scrape to the right rear.
You know, I think I've spotted him do that a couple times, actually, so far on this one. He's definitely running it pretty tight towards that safe barrier at the moment. As Wesley Pistol moves by Johnny Baldridge, who's struggling a bit at the moment, it would seem. Someone else down on the apron. 2 cars down on the apron, actually, there.
Staggering, though, still only Patrick moves off the track. But if you look towards the right where the shot is, Baldridge, the reason he's fallen off compared to his earlier speed in this F5 machine, look how much that right front's crunched in, and that's hurting him a lot on corner speed and straight line speed. That's allowing everybody else to pass on by him, and that's why everyone's just making quick work of him and trying to make sure they pass him as quick as they can.
All about the aerodynamics and the downforce. At racetracks where the full throttle percentage is so high, the average speed is so high as well, because you're running the top side. You cannot afford even the slightest of bent fenders on the front of that car. The back of the car, you can sometimes get away with it, but not the front. Boyd Hogan and Jose Solis Jr. 3rd and 4th. These two have been up here since the start of the race, and now it looks like Hogan's got a bit of a pace advantage over Jose Solis Jr. He was, last time by, a couple tenths quicker than him.
I was talking with a little bit before tonight's action. He said his car's set up, as we were talking about, more for the second half of the race. So I think, again, just playing things out, trying to play the strategy entire car. Keep the track position, keep the car clean. But the main concern, though, is Solis Jr. starting to fall off, and in turn, some of his fellow teammates have started to fall off from Nexus Esports, where they've gone backwards. The ones who have gone clean, the majority of his respective teammates are in the back half of the field right now.
Yeah, very much the Lone Ranger up at the front at the moment, isn't he? He's hoping his teammates come good a little bit later on into this one as he gets to the inside now of Junior, but Solis is not going to roll over and let him go there. Damage to the front right of his car, though, I've noticed as well. Not Hogan, but the 5.
When it changed for the race lead, Busa all of a sudden has got a major run, and I think Ray just let him go.
Yeah, 3 tenths quicker on the last lap. Matt Busa uses that to slingshot by and take the race lead away. Modem Simulation replay tells us a tail. Looks like Ray might have... Well, he did move down and let him go.
Go back to the exit turn forward. He's looking fine here, and then all of a sudden it's like he gets a signal saying, you know what? Want to see how it is in dirty air? Lets him go. In live action, Busa just did the exact same thing. Both of them just want, I think, know, how is this car going to react in dirty air, and now trying to make a race out of it?
Hey, there goes Malik Ray again. While they do this, Solis Jr. and Boyd Hogan are saying, yeah, keep it up. We'll come lead this race. As Boost lets them go through turn 3 this time. They're both Coke Series drivers. Their focus is not this race. It's Tuesday. They win there. That's the big show. They need to know how the car is going to perform.
110%. Perfect example when the Coke Series last year went to Bristol. It was a full distance race, remember, 500 laps under the lights. Seen several drivers, as soon as we got to lap 250 in that race, just say, you know what, I'm pitting, heel off, and the race right at the 50% of the race mark. Because that was the distance of the Coke race that year. So I wouldn't be surprised again to see some of that tonight, but at this point, Ray and Boost, I think, are just, again, trying to have fun and try and see how their cars fare in different conditions. All well, Solis Jr. Hogan are just probably thinking, here's how this plays out. All while Kane Cook's saying, I'm going to do Kane Cook things and pull away from mains.
Yeah, he's just got Vibe, in fact, to take that 5th spot away. So the top 6 are staying pretty close to each other, courtesy of the back and forth between Ray and Boosa. Tyler Justice pretty much all by himself right now in 7th. Little gap behind him to Caden Rush and Jonathan Hernandez. Harrison Lyons out of sequence in that group as well.
And again, Cook, similar technical alliance to the car, which one on Wednesday we're talking about. Michael Guest, similar one to Ray. Expecting similar philosophies, if not a little bit different, to test the different marks. The curious thing is, again, going to be how drivers like Boyd and Jose play this. Knowing that there's Coke drivers around them, and as well, they're trying to get data for their respective organizations. And in some cases, like the Legacy Esports machines, trying to assist with the respective alliance members from, say, Slepengle. So this is curious to see, again, how this all plays out. It's still early. Keep that in mind. You're just playing the long game as Boosa plays the wall game.
That's cost him a chunk. Jose Solis Jr. decides not to take the run, and he stays behind him. Wood Hogan went beneath him, and now Kane Cook has joined the party. Gets to the outside of Hogan, who lets him go. Kane Cook now 31st to 4th in this race. Biggest mover by quite a stretch, plus 27.
Yes, indeed. Biggest mover of the race. And he's already coming in fairly quickly here. Curious how he handles Boosa here, though, as Solis Jr. is looking like he's just tighter and losing speed on exit. That's what's killing him. And in turn, it's almost to where he's getting so tight it's starting to bobble him loose off the corners, trying to keep it off the fence.
That sun's getting lower, isn't it? It's just above that building on the back straight at the moment. Some of the drivers in practice are talking about it being a bit blinding as they run down the back straight.
Oh, here we go again for the race lead, and cue the fun again. Ray's backed it up. He wants dirty air. Boosa doesn't want to give it to him. And Cook just says, you know what? I'll lead if you guys want to play games.
Yeah, this works out well for both of them. Now they both get dirty air. Kane Cook will punch that hole. Kane Cook to the lead here on lap 54 of the NIS Southern 500. Ray now second. Boosa has...
I don't know what he's thinking.
Oh, he's back to 6.
Yeah, he just let 3-4 cars go there. They do know this is live, right?
We know Malik does. I thought Boosa disconnected. I was looking at the top 5 spots going, where is he? So he's running 6 at the moment. Tyler Justice and Harrison Lyon is just back there behind him. Lyon still 3 laps down though. Actually got some pretty good pace, Lyon, despite that damage. Staying up inside the top 10 on the track. 31st overall. Only one retirement so far. That's Patrick Moose, 24 laps down. And in fact, Moose hasn't actually left the session, so he might still come back out on the racetrack once 40 minutes of repairs are done for a bloated motor.
Yeah, I think he's still sticking around, though, in case more drivers have trouble. Only a couple drivers off the lead lap. Eventually, though, traffic's going to come into play. Keen's still circulating in 30th in front of the race leaders. Hickson's in 29th, slowly dropping back. Meanwhile, fights such as this are factoring all the way at the other end of the speedway in the 20s. This is nearly a full half a lane track behind already to your race leaders. That's how much pace difference there is from the front to the back.
Lap traffic is a proverbial nightmare at Darlington because of how hard it is to run side by side. I mean, where do they go? There's no blue flags in NASCAR, of course. They're not going to just pull off and let you go. They're not going to go down to the apron and let you go because they're racing their own race as well. If they run the racing line, then suddenly the leaders have got to go lower in the corner to get by, or they've got to squeeze between the laps car and the fence. It's really tricky. And Kane Cook is actually coming up on Thomas Keane here. Thomas Keane coming to pit road actually now.
Significantly damaged and actually hit the inside wall, Keane just did, so it's not been Keane's night since that caution flag. Just absolutely demolished that 27 machine and looking like going to get some damage repaired at the very least out of the way of the leaders. Now the next car is still about 15-20 car lengths up the road for traffic, and then it's still at least the rest of this run to get up to 28, 27, 26 on forward.
Hey, so what's the story with the 7 miles of apron beneath the racetrack? It seems a bit backwards, doesn't it?
I mean, it's a good question, of course, and you run up towards the top as talked about with this difference in some of the racing structure. Lots of space, though, with the apron, though, means you crash down on that apron, you're likely not triggering a caution unless you pinball back at the racetrack or lock it up right at the very edge of the racing surface. So in turn, that's where many drivers in turn then have to duck down and turn onto said apron, Ryan, for pit stops. And that's the most difficult part for many of these competitors. Because if you turn down and arcing in too hard to the left or go too fast, there have been many cases in real life, and in NASCAR and in NIS competition, where drivers have just either crashed into the pit wall, crashed up the track, overshot the pit lane, and had to go down the next time. So the story with that apron is, good luck. It's going to be very difficult to try and manage it when you have to go down for your pit stops. That's about, give or take, maybe 10 to 20 laps, expecting some of the pit stops from this point on.
There's a nice group forming at the moment just behind Colton Landis for 10th position. So I think the top two are pretty much stagnant at the moment. Sean Powell's just got by Justin Levine. Timu Toika just got by Wesley Pistol. Tommy Gossett is closing in on 4 of them.
Tommy Gossett right now scored 15th. It's been an up and down day for him. Toika been up and down. Again, we've seen him show some good speed, though, on the road course side. Runs more so now for Simsa Esports now. Looking like his balance is fairly stable so far. Decent run of Levine, but again, the difficult part is on the long run. It takes several laps at Darlington to set up passes. It's like that, yes, at many tracks. But here, it's different where you're waiting for just either the car in front to make a mistake or you to just get enough momentum off in towards the front straightaway to be able to dive to the inside without smacking the wall or hitting the car above you or just end up snapping around in total around this track. Toika, the reason he lost some time here, nearly snapped it up in the fence in 3 and 4.
Check out how much shade there is around this half of the circuit. And then they turn out of turn 2 and it is hello sun. No, actually, that cloud cover's now covered the whole track. So that does a little bit to change up the lap times as well. Can make the track a little bit more comfortable to drive with no sun sort of beating down on it. And a nice reprieve for drivers as well. No longer sailing off into turn 3 with a face full of sunlight.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. The track is heating up, yes, at 88 degrees with the amount of laps turned. But the main thing is with that sun, once it's shining in your face, depending on your setup, you're either going to have to put your hand above your eyes and hope you can see, or if you're in VR, good luck until you reach the very entrance of the corner where the buildings are, you see there, where it blocks out the sun. It's basically a blind corner when it's that bright in the sun, once that sun is shining. Right now with the clouds, the drivers aren't having to deal with that like they did on Wednesday. Let's put it that way at this part of the race.
If you're in VR, can you just stick your head out the left side window and avoid the sun?
No. I tried that. I run with VR. I tried that. It didn't work, unfortunately.
Is that disorientating? You stick your head out the left side window while you're running around the track at 200 mile an hour?
You can actually technically do it, but I also think the sensors for the respective VR headset on my part might clip the car back into place, so interesting discussion. I don't know how others would respond, though. I wouldn't be surprised if someone tries to have themselves like a giraffe through the head of their, or the top of the race cars in VR sets before.
Ron Toyota still, that cloud cover is starting to dissipate, and the sun is starting to reappear, and the drivers are starting to go, oh god, no. As they're going to have to deal with it again. It is now 5 minutes to 7 p.m. in sim time. I feel like that sun might have actually dipped behind that building now.
Maybe a little bit, but I think the best option is potentially looking from a visor cam maybe in that regard, but man, for some of these cars, it's going to be a very long haul where you're looking for the right call. 0.4 of a second difference between Seth Ryder, for example, to what Malik Ray's been turning up towards the front. This is for 19th, mind you. And these cars have already had some damage. To the right rear, you see for Crump. It's the front for Seth Ryder. That's hurting them, as well as just how their cars are built. You need to have that long-run pace if you want to contend here at Darlington, and unfortunately they don't have it early on in this race, at least in the daytime. That's the main thing. Should note the sun is shining a lot now in through turn 3.
Crump and Ryder have both gained 8 spots Crump, 5 spots Ryder, so they both picked up a few spots early on. But
there's the sun. Like I said, it's bright, isn't it?
But they're 18 seconds off the lead. And I think Ryder is struggling a bit now for an opportunity to overtake. He's got the run as we pick up Caden Rush further up the order. If we'd stayed with Crump and Ryder, you would not have been able to put a piece of paper between their 2 quarter panels.
I think Ryder's getting a little impatient. Ooh. Just about hit the back bumper there of Crump, trying to send him up the track. Here comes Ryder with the run.
Yeah, that was very much a get out of the way, I'm faster than you. Keith Brugman will be a little bit apprehensive about seeing that. He doesn't want them to wreck in front as he gives him a shot back. Sideways goes Ryder as there's a new leader out front in all this. Malik Ray is taking it back away from Kane Cook. The blistering lap time.
Well, it's been back and forth for the race lead, although for the race leaders, they've been setting up set back and forth for testing purposes. Cook let Ray go for that race lead, but these battles towards the back are not done yet. Here comes the F5 car. Just about hit Crump, and he actually doored him. Pushed
David
off the
Brown
track.
Going to go by now as well, so that was Brugman that gave him the hit. And Scott Crump is finding his fenders a bit crumpled in at the moment after few cars have used him up to try and get by.
Yeah, that low-line racing machine not having a good past couple laps, let's put it that way. And now with that damage, that's going to hurt him a little bit more. Now with the right side damage, the nose damage, hurting him down the straightaways. Was checking some of the cars up to 2 to 3 miles an hour in some cases with the damage. And all of that battling has lost them more time to the leaders because, speaking of those leaders, they've reached the lap traffic at the other end of the straightaway. Ray is right in the draft of Cecil Green to put him a lap down in 27.
So, Where's this pit window going to be, Justin?
Expecting it fairly soon, already approaching 60 laps or so. Longest I've seen is about 70-ish plus laps on the fuel before. And from what we're seeing with some of the early cautions, drivers are looking like they're just saying, you know what, let's stretch it. Try and see how things fare out, because the tire wear has balanced out for some of these cars to about 2.2 seconds. Some of the cars who have just been lapped are pitting, though, this time.
Hey,
JD
yeah.
Willis, Cecil Green are in.
Just going to highlight that. So JD Willis come down to pit road. This may trigger a domino effect up the order as well. As Malik Gray's navigating as well by some of the lap traffic. Bill Bollinger. Scott Malik Gray gone by. Kane Cook going to come by as well. Seth Knoll as well is about to go a lap down. Matt Boos has dropped out of the session.
Like I said, getting data for Tuesday. So that's a free spot for everybody.
Yeah. Still 31 cars, 30 cars running. On board with Sean Powell, who sits in 9th at the moment. Hello, son. You can just about see Landis' car in front of him.
Has a bit of space. But I think the main thing is where it gets really, really tight for some of these groupings of race cars is where the trouble's going to start to lie in here, I think, here, Ryan, because when you get to bumper and you have that sun in your face, that's going to really make it difficult to know where exactly they're letting off on the gas to be able to enter the corner. That's where a couple times we've already seen some bumper-to-bumper contact in these groupings such as this. Once you get up to the rear end, you have to time it up right. If you don't have that visibility to time it up, it could make it extremely difficult.
JD Willis, now with those fresh tyres, is charging his way through the field. Keep an eye on his lap times, because it'll give a good idea for how much Malik Gray is losing. So Malik Gray 29.5, JD Willis 28.2, but he is 2 laps down at the moment.
Yeah. Keep in mind, you have a badly timed caution. It can make it difficult for you with the older tires. If you have to take the wave as well, you're likely losing a lap when you pit. You also have the differences in life cycles of tires trying to cut through here. You see right there, massive run for the driver on fresh tires. All of this is side-by-side off of 4.
Oh, maybe a little bit of contact there between Cecil Green and that car down low as they squeezed out of...
Oh, and Pistol nearly spun it with the contact.
Johnny Balderidge down there as well, just come out of pit road, almost gets into him, he slides as well. That was an awkward effect.
I think Baldridge actually nearly hit the back of the Pistol and had to go down to the apron in 1 and 2 to make sure he didn't take Pistol out there. Both of them lose significant amount of time as a result, about 4 or 5 seconds, only a couple spots on the track, but bit of a heart attack moment for those cars, as speaking of cars, here's more of them.
Boyd Hogan, just behind Bill Bollinger, Matthew Benson, Scott Tyler Justice, Harrison Lyon behind him. A lot of different paced cars out there now. You've got your race leaders and old tyres, you've got some of the cars further down the order on fresh tyres, and then those guys in the middle of those two extremes.
Indeed, and I think what we're seeing here, too, on top of this for the race leaders as they continue to stretch it on for the fuel mileage is, 1, they're the quickest cars in the field by 5 seconds, but 2, that Ray has been able to cut through the traffic quicker and cleaner than any of the other cars inside the top 4 so far tonight. Just been reaching the right spots, He's been able to get by them quickly and cleanly. He's been wanting to send it more aggressive, while Cook's been having to dart down and lose a bit of time in some cases to avoid some groupings of cars. But for drivers like Tyler Justice, they're flying. One of the Phase 2 cars, and looking like he's saying, you know what, I had a run, but I have to let by lap traffic here as well.
We're on board with Tyler Justice. That's the number 1 car of Garrett Maines in front of him. Maines was MIA for a few weeks in this series, but he returned last week and has followed it up with an appearance at Darlington. Looks like Andrew Skelnick might be on fresh rubber behind these two. Just a little bit tentative to make the pass though. He's a lap down in 27th.
He's actually in 13-lap old tires and had some trouble elected to come down and pit very early compared to some of his competitors. And I think he's saying, don't want to end up scrambling this battle, just don't want to factor in, wait until they fight it out, and then I'll try and go on by. Right now, Maines just falling off just a touch bit here in this group.
Now he lets him go, and now Andrew Skelnick can go by as well. That puts a car between Justice and Maines. Tyler Justice been slowly picking up spots in this one. From where he started in 15th, now not too far away from the top 5. About 3 seconds back from... No, he is top 5 now, actually. A second, that's what away from Maines. Jonathan Hernandez is sitting at 8th. He's just lost a spot to Colton Landis. Both of these guys are up quite a few. Of course, we do have a few pitters that have elevated everyone else up the order.
Caden Rush, Keith Bridgman just dunked in. Expecting some pit stops coming up from for these cars because in the case of Bridgman, he is a teammate to the car you've seen in Baldridge. So the window is now open as Hernandez, as you just said, is in.
And this should bring in the rest of the top 10 in response. As Seth Knoll peels off there. Hogan and Jose Solis Jr. continue. Solis Jr. running right against the safe barrier, and he actually hits it out of turn 4. That made Hogan swing a hard left to make sure he missed it. He picks up that spot as a result.
I think Boyd actually thought he was letting him go. I don't think he realized Solis Jr. was so tight he smacked the wall. We've seen it several times how he was losing time, but they lost 4 seconds in the span of 5 laps to the race leaders. They're now ducking in. Ray is in for the undercut.
Well, Ray was leading, so looking to go further out and stretch his margin. Just pitting behind Wesley Pistol there. Pit road speed limit though, so not affecting him at all. Kane Cook, will he respond with a pit stop on the next lap? Yes, he will. He's down on the apron. Trying to get it slowed down to pit road speed limit by right there.
Well, you've seen a good example you just seen on the onboard, and the bad example of Jake Hickson on the right side of your screen there. He completely missed the stall, and now is bringing up a bunch of marbles now on the apron, trying to go an arrow lap here in the 21. Let's take a look at the Momentum Simulation replay. Exactly what we're talking about here. You can see him trying to get down. He's already got damage. We talked about him being one of the drivers first that were put a lap down, and just misses the line in the cone and nearly hits the barrels and says, you know what, let's go an arrow lap.
Yeah, he went past and had to go again. That's going to cost him a lap at least, you would think. Malik Ray has maintained his race lead, effective race lead, once everyone else pits as well. Over Kane Cook, still quite a few yet to pit. Top 6 quickly becoming even less as Levine is on pit road as well now. And Seth Ryder.
And there's also 2 differences you may have noticed with pit entry. Ray's known for being able to send it in aggressive while just avoiding speeding in the first segment of the pit lane. He gained about 10 seconds on Kane Cook in the pit stop sequence. 10-11 seconds. That is Unbelievable. That includes the undercut, where's the difference of 2 seconds, but about 6 seconds or so gained on pit stop, entry, and exit by Ray, as Baldridge will sacrifice the lead and give it to Ray.
That's ridiculous. That might single-handedly be the biggest undercut I've ever seen over one lap.
Welcome to the world of Malik Ray.
Yeah. The gap is 9.7. Now between Ray and Cook. 14 back to Hernandez. Is Hernandez pitted? If so, big gain for him. So remember,
Yes,
he
did.
pitted a couple laps before everyone else is up the top set, and he now sits third. But Tyler Justice, Boyd Hogan, Jose Solis Jr. right behind him, and here comes Justice to take away P3 to the inside for turn 1. Hernandez not rolling over, but unable to hold the spot. On that top line, just slots down in front of Hogan. Now he lets them all go.
Yeah, and that's just a 1 lap difference. Hernandez was actually fairly quick, I think, on the long run. Changed teams a couple weeks ago as part of a restructuring with Legacy Esports, moved over to Esport Racing Group. It's Chris Robertson Company. Now he's flying, and so is Hogan. He's starting to pick up a little bit of pace as we approach the third of the way in mark. He's up to his highest spot of this entire race tonight, Ryan up to third, but the downside is it's 15 seconds behind Ray, all while the drivers who tried to stretch it are still nearly all the way 3/4 of a lap behind, and Ray pinned a lap down as a result after pit stops.
There's always someone watching you, and Kane Cook had eyes on him. He was held up severely by lap traffic coming out of 2 on his outlet in lap. That's why he has lost a lot of time, and those eyes were YouTube chat. Robert Miller letting us know what happened to Kane Cook there.
I seen a little bit of that as well, but I didn't think it was exactly the main cause. You do lose time, yes, Ryan, of course. About a second or so
Yes.
probably from that, but to gain a lot, as much as an extra 9 seconds total, maybe 8 from the undercut, again, is something you normally don't see. And keep in mind, Ray was actually about nearly a full second quicker in the pit lane than Kane Cook, and Cook had an extra 0.6 of a second in the pit stall in total. So a lot of time was gained overall on entry, the in lap, as well as the pit lane, as well as the out lap that allowed him this 10-second gap, and he's growing it about a 10th quicker than Cook.
It was just a collection of different things, little losses here and there. Sort of, I've forgotten what word. I need to get my dictionary out. But coming together to create a much bigger gap than one would think would be possible. Wow, that's right in the eyes now out of turn 2. He's only stretching the gap now as well. It's now over 10 seconds. So he's got a little bit in hand in terms of raw pace as well, as you might expect. Lap 102 of 367. There's 12 cars left on the lead lap after that pit stop window really shook the field out. We have 260 laps to go. We're going to go sim speed side by side here on the iRacing Esports Network. Stay with us.
this rolling on the back straightaway.
Get ready. This is going to be tight. Out of turn 4, ladies and gentlemen. The All-American 400 is underway.
Gotta be careful. The bumps here can get you every time. Entering the corner, exiting the corner.
We're back at Darlington. Wow. Okay. That break didn't do me any good. We're 8.8 seconds behind Malik Ray if we're Kane Cook. The rest of the field is praying on a caution because Malik Ray is in a rocket, it would seem.
Yeah, he is losing time, to Cook, but the gap is so massive where it's going to take a lot of work for Cook to get up there and a lot of traffic to hold up that 51 machine. Just absolutely flying, looking like he's made very minimal mistakes tonight. He's been trying to have a lot of fun tonight with some of the dirty air factors. And in turn, he's showing what that car may have, or at least a baseline for what they have entering the weekend. Have to say this. The drivers a part of that technical alliance are in decent shape come Tuesday if they race like they are tonight.
Every race we've had this season so far, we're 26 races in, has been highly competitive and a lot of cars have finished on the lead lap. We're 116 laps into this race and there's 10 cars left on the lead lap. And Team Toyota's about to lose that as well, running in 10th. I mean, we're looking at the moment at one of the most dominant displays of the season. I mean, we're only a third of the way in, but it's still a long road back for everyone that's a lap down to get that back because, well, they have to take a wave around. And when you take a wave around, you can't pit under that caution. So if you're basically banking on 2 quick cautions if you're a lap down now, otherwise you end up pitting either out of cycle under green as opposed to yellow, or you're on terribly old tyres and you go back a lap down very quickly anyway.
Yeah, this has just been incredible to see as we see Timo Toika about to potentially lose his lap already. The difference in lap time's not too bad. It's about 4/10. The problem is, again, it's just added up more and more and more with each and every turn lap. For the Nexus/Simsa Esports driver, that's not going to help as Caden Rush, he's now done for the race. He is out from 29th position.
There you go. 9 cars on the lead lap. Next on the list, Sean Powell. Wow, that's dangerous. Sean Powell, Garrett Mays, Jonathan Hernandez, and Colton Landis. All about 6 or 7 seconds up the road. Once he gets there... Sheesh.
Yeah, give Moose credit. We talked about this. If drivers dropped out or had DNFs or crashed, he can gain spots. He can gain at least 3 now. I think he was expecting there to be a bit more attrition by this point. but when you're the 12 car even, this is still a decent amount of I rating you will lose in a respective race if you DNF and leave. You lose more I rating, in fact, if you disconnect compared to making it to the checker flag and or staying in the session. So at this point, Moose just trying to play things out, and he's learned his lesson. Don't put a lot of tape on it and or try and play around with shifting a little bit, because it will end up blowing up your engine on lap 30-ish.
Well, he's going to want to take all the tape off, isn't he?
Well, at least some of it. That's basically a brand new engine now in the car.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. But it's 38 minutes to do a fresh engine change in iRacing, thereabouts.
Including the tow, yeah, give or take. In turn, it's going to be a long way to hoe as Seth Ryder is trying to pull away, it looks like, from Matthew Benson now you see on screen in this grouping. Wesley Pistol also just up the road. It's about a 0.5 of a second gap between these cars, and we talked a bit about the root cars. They were very confident tonight. Of course, we've seen Ryan that early pace from Pistol. I think they have still some stuff to work on based on the notes we've seen so far with the pace from the amount of fall-off limited by the best drivers tonight. They've been able to limit it right at 2 seconds, it seems, right at the midway mark, and then fall off maybe a couple tenths at the most once they have to come and pit.
It's like a plateau, isn't it? If you look at it on a tyre graph.
Exactly.
On a lap time graph.
It's exactly that. There are times a plateau, but the drivers and teams who have not been able to stick that plateau, they've been going backwards and losing a couple tenths a lap, and that's been the case for them all night, where it's been playing catch-up and hoping for a caution to try and equalize things and try and replan out the strategy. It's not been that type of race tonight. This is a track, yes, that's known for its attrition, yes. But when you spread out the field, you can have long runs, as we've seen tonight. This is one of the longest of the week.
Hernandez just getting by David Brown, that was. Garrett Maines is right behind him. You can't quite see him in the mirror from that shot, but Maines is hunting him down in a race to not be the first one next on the list to get lapped. Getting the lucky dog is incredibly crucial at this point, because as I talked about what happens if you have to kick a wave around, the lucky dog eliminates that issue and puts you back in sequence with Ray, Cook, Hogan, Solis Jr. Looking at this, Justin, if it stays green for a significant amount of time still, I think maybe Hogan and Solis Jr. will stay on the lead lap, and Tyler Justice, maybe. But Kane Cook holds his 8 seconds back, he's safe, but I mean, Hogan and Solis Jr. are 18 seconds back at the moment. It's a 28-second lap time, thereabouts. Certainly Justice, or certainly I think Hernandez, Maines, and Powell are in trouble.
110%, especially with how much time's been gained on the pit stop sequences. The times have even out, mind you, with some of the traffic for the leaders, but still, they're 23 seconds back. At this rate, if you want any shot of the win, you're either hoping for some luck or a caution. Probably both. And at this point, no one's really made any significant mistakes in about 30-40 laps, not to jinx it. Drivers have been able to hit their marks. There's been a lot of space given, knowing this is a long race. Not a lot of drivers have been contesting spots aggressively tonight. It's just been the right type of night so far from Malik Ray in this race so far. The gap has increased, though, as Cook got held up a ton all of a sudden. He's lost several seconds, and about 5 in the past lap. He's now in.
But Justin?
And he's out of the car. Something just happened to Kane Cook. He was looking fine, and then all of a sudden, I think he just elected, you know what, let's duck it off the track, had enough data and losing some time. I'm surprised here. Normally, we see Kane Cook try and complete these NIS events. I'm surprised.
Yeah, with the exception of Coke Series and our World Series, real even then, real life very much often precedes these events. So it's almost unlimited amount of things that could have happened for him in real life. And the way he pulled that off, you would suspect potentially something did happen out there in the real world. So hopefully all is well. What that now means is there is a very real potential of Madly Gray lapping the entire field.
Yeah, this just completely gave it to him because Cook was starting to gain time. I think if there was a caution, it would have been between them as well as maybe Hogan and Sullis Jr., depending on the adjustments in the nighttime. Now, it stays green. Ray can just run off into the sunset and continue to grow the gap. He's gained 4 tenths now because Hogan got held up a lot by lap traffic and had a discussion, I think, with said traffic over the radio. He's now back an extra couple seconds as a result, and Sullis Jr. is still bunched up with the mind and all of that for the battle for second position. Willis is also ducked down to the pits, by the way.
I think it's fitting that this is happening for Ray on this track. Darlington is the venue of the biggest winning margin in NASCAR history. 14 laps. Back in the olden days. I don't know what year it was. It was a long time ago, though. But also the closest margin of 2,000ths of a second, 2003.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, remember that finish and expecting a potential throwback wink involving said finish. It's one of the most thrilling finishes in all of NASCAR. As Ty Ippolito's not having fun, we've seen him scrape the wall, and these drivers are not having fun either. How about double wide trying to get through traffic?
Not fun at all. We don't want to go 3 wide, that's for sure. On board with Toyota, I think this is, up top at the moment against the fence. It is. He's got Bill Bollinger behind him. I love that name. Joshua Campbell back there as well. Patrick Moose with his brand spanking new engine. Andrew Skelnick in front, and a couple more slow-moving cars. It is that point now where there are so many varying speeds at any point, at any given place on the racetrack, in terms of lead lap cars, 1 lap cars, 2 lap down cars, damaged cars, fresh cars. The race itself may be spread out, but in terms of where they're on track, it's very much not that easy.
Exactly, and that's just part of the energy and attrition effect for these types of races. The best drivers aren't going to make the mistake where you tap the wall. You make that mistake of tapping the wall, you have to hope you have a chance to repair the damage. And you're basically stuck with it for a scenario such as this. So it's about mitigating mistakes and trying to make sure you keep an eye on your mirrors as well as keeping an eye on how things are playing out for your race, because race management is a key thing all these drivers think about and plan about for these types of races as well as racecraft. As we've talked about many times, you can't just float around the racetrack and expect to win, you burning up your tires within 10 laps. You have to plan it out for the entire distance scheduled for the race and how you would take said plans as well as how you manage, how you attack positions, how you let traffic go, how you want to run a specific line, when you want to pit, all those things factored in as, by the way, damage control for Patrick Moose just gained him a spot to 31st.
Good job. He is 66 laps down. 5 more laps, and you'll get Booser. 20 laps, you'll get Caden Rush. And in about 50 laps time, you'll get Kane Cook.
Indeed, here looking nice here. Still, this grouping. Sullis Jr. looking a little bit better, I think, actually, Ryan, compared to the last run, where he was really tight. This is around the time where the tires started going off, though, when he started scrubbing the wall. He's almost hit the wall again down the front.
This is the battle for best of the rest at the moment. As close to the front as they're getting without a caution intervening, I think. Look at that sunset now, very much getting close to nighttime. Sun dipping beneath the horizon almost. As Sullis Jr. really riding it against that safer barrier through 3 and 4, the tighter of the 2 corners here at Darlington. this egg-shaped racetrack.
And I think part of the reason, I'm just taking a look at this now, if we can get it on board and look at the right front, we've mentioned right fronts. There was that discussion with the lap car was talking about, Ryan, wondering if he got damage from that, because you see a crinkle. It's for Boyd Hogan's car specifically on the 96 or the 3 in sim. Really crinkled up, and all of a sudden, that's really starting to slow him down just enough to where, yes, he's faster than the leader, but it's matching him even with Solis Jr. on pace now. So that, again, is the importance of reaching traffic in the right spots and hoping they don't hold you up. Otherwise, you're hitting the wall or running them over.
Yeah, Solis Jr. has had his damage for quite some time, and it's worse than Hogan's. But probably Hogan just trying to figure out how to drive around that damage now. Have to adjust his line a little bit, readjust the speed he carries into the corners, because it'll be giving him a bit of understeer as well, or it can do.
And again, with that struggle off the corners now with the said damage, it's putting him down the straight line speed, as we talked about. Comparing it to Ray, for example, in clean space, he's reaching 172 at the end of the straightaways. Boyd's been reaching 171. Let Solis Jr. go, and I think Solis Jr. is now faster. Now that Hogan's got a little bit of that, may have to try to adjust as he looks to try and fight a little bit back, maybe draft on back.
Sean Powell just going a lap down. Hernandez is about a second away from going a lap down as well. There are a couple cars on track faster than Malik Ray now, though. Notably, the one right behind him, the 17 of Andrew Skelnick, who's 5 laps drift, 26th overall. He was last on pit road 15 laps ago.
And the interesting thing with Andrew is, how do I put this? He's almost been like one of the gentleman drivers. He knows he's had a struggle of a race, has been off the pace, has just been trying to time with the lap cars. But Hernandez, he's the next car up for grabs to be lapped at this rate. The way this is all shaping out. So it's not been the night I think Hernandez is smoking for. Yes, it's still a top 10 run, but I don't think you want to finish on not on the lead lap in a full distance race as we've seen tonight. Already just under 10 car lengths up the road from the race leader.
There they are in the background. That's Ray. That's Skolnick. 2 cars immediately behind on the racetrack. Look how close they drew on the entry to turn 3 there. That's Ray spending most of his time, it would seem. He's on the entry to these quarters. I thought he was going to whack the fence sled.
Yeah, bit of a mistake, and still Skelnick, I'm surprised, hasn't tried to push the issue with the fresher tires. Again, it's just been his MO. Keep in mind, this driver that is right behind Ray, to give him a little bit of perspective, 261 starts, 202 of them have come this year, Ryan, surprisingly. He shot up from a 2,000 IR to 5K in the span of a couple months this year. And is in total turned 19,000 laps to get where he is now. You have to give him credit. Whatever he's been doing this year compared to the minimal appearances in the past, it's completely changed his outlook on the sim.
Certainly has, and that time commitment as well is brilliant. And it's something that everyone at the top level pretty much has to commit so much time to be competitive in these races. And even then, sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes Malik Ray's in the field and he'll just absolutely blow you all out of the water.
Here comes Hernandez now being potentially lapped by Ray. And Ray, I don't think, has been willing to give up the space here with some of these cars coming on the faster tires. Here comes Bollinger. We've seen duck down the pit lane to make things interesting. Hernandez, I think, may give it to him down the back straightaway at this rate. They're also reeling in mains. Nope, they're just going to give it to Bollinger, knowing he's quicker.
That keeps Hernandez in the lead lap for at least a little bit longer. You mentioned Garrett Maines to top the road. Well, Colton Lands and Tyler Justice and Boyd Hogan and Jose Solis Jr. all a second further ahead from the next car. it's intervals of a second now for Mally Gray for each car he wants to put a lap down.
Keep in mind, we're just about towards their pit window and about 10 laps from where they stretched in before. So expecting a lot of these late lap cars to come into play. That may factor in how Ray attacks some of these lap cars if he tries to just ride and gain time in the pit entry, or if he tries to make some passes on the said traffic and then try and get some clean space for the entry. It's just about preference. Remember, he needs a lot of space to be able to send it on into the lane with his pit entrance style at many of these racetracks.
So, I wonder if there's a way we can look back and find out what the biggest winning margin is in NIS.
Are you talking this year or in the history of NIS?
Both. Certainly top split. We've already passed it. 23 seconds. Only halfway, though. Still a long way to go. When that works it both ways. We're only halfway. Plenty of time for other drivers to come back. Or we're only halfway. Plenty of time for Ray to double his advantage.
The interesting thing, again, is going to be when we get to about the 180s on lap times, or lap totals, rather, because that's about the distance of the Coke race. It becomes the question, does Ray take the win, or does he take the testing time? That's the curious thing, because if he elects to stay on the track, this would be probably, again, as you mentioned, NIS best in 2020 in any split combined in open competition. This has just been unbelievable. He's gained another second since the last time he looked at the battle. 4-second spot, by the way. That's how quick Ray has gone, and he's still got another 8 or 9 laps on the fuel.
I'd want to keep going just to see how far I could go. Not every day you get a chance to win by this much at the moment.
Give some entertainment to your streamers. Remember, he's one of the drivers who's known for streaming a decent amount as well on Twitch.
.2 seconds to the gap now. Ray has officially put Hernandez's lap down. That was a while ago. Main's next on the list. What else is happening down the order? A bit tough to cite it by the leaderboard now that everyone's just says a lap down and not a lap time difference between them.
I think Justin Levine just had a problem. I think he missed the pit lane.
Same as Jake Hickson then. Here's a replay. Let's see if it does unfold the same way.
Take a look at this, and he goes for a more hotter entry strategy. Some of the cars have arced it off a 3. He goes right from the apex, completely misses the commitment cone, and completely misses the barrels, so a lot of lost time for Levine. In live action was much more careful on the entry. That's going to lose him some more time as a result.
Harrison Lyon and Cecil Green for 24th place. Both 4 laps down. Very close on the racetrack. Just got separated as they got by David Brown. And Timu Toika, in the background there, is 9th and about to pass both of these guys. Seth Noel and Joshua Campbell a little bit further up the road for 18th as well.
Seth, one of the drivers taking the throwback route tonight with Nexus Esports, electing to go with one of the Darrell Waltrip throwbacks to the Mountain Dew paint schemes back in the day. The thing that's been really hurting him is severe right front damage. You see a little bit, as well as quarter panel damage. Just killing him in the corners, especially having to back off on the gas, as now Boyd Hogan's getting backed up from this. He's right behind him.
And then there were 5. Garrett Maines has been lapped.
And here comes more pit stops and all of this as well. It's just been, again, complete domination.
What happens if his pit stop's as good as the last one?
He laps the field at halfway. I mean, he's got the car to do it. I'm just stunned. I'm not sure what else you can really say. This is the best I've seen Ray drive in a long time. Have to say that before he became a Coke driver, he had some good races and official races where he started the back, blitz his way up to the front and then take the win. At one point, he pit with 10 laps to go in at the Brickyard and still finished in second after a crazy final lap. So he's got the speed. It just hasn't translated at times at the professional level quite yet. He's adjusted his driving style on that side, and tonight, you can see now that he's gotten the chance to just run tonight, be in his climate, feel the car. He's just absolutely flown around this track and has nearly lapped the field as pit stops underway for the lead lap for the drivers just at the very top of the board, 1 lap down. Quentin Pistol will miss his stall.
He's got the Rowdy Energy paint scheme on, and Rowdy himself will be pretty proud of this performance. That was really tight.
I thought he was going to hit Baldridge.
Hide Baldridge. Just missed him. But yeah, very much taking a likeness from, I guess, the owner of that paint scheme.
Yes, indeed.
Today.
And he's seen on board there a little bit with how aggressive Ray is on the pit entries. That's what gains him a lot of time. He knows how to take advantage of the speed loops. And in turn, it's one of his main strengths as a driver, especially on green flag runs to gain spots. As your new leader, Jose Salas Jr., as a result of the stop.
These guys on the lead lap now are absolutely praying under every goal they can think of that a caution is going to come out right now. He's still rejoined the racetrack in third, by the way.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Now
Salas Jr. going to stay out for a little bit longer.
Still has about a 4-second gap or so on the racetrack. I think try to stretch it out. Boyd Hogan went for the undercut, though, as well as Tower Justice. They came in around the same time for the respective stops. So Hogan trying to gain some time on Solis Jr. on the racetrack with a bit of the damage as he's now in. But Solis Jr. will have about 1 or 2 lap fresher tires for this next run.
Seth Ryder has clawed his way back onto the lead lap for now as he stays out. Tommy Gossett also comes to pit road. So we are 3 pit stops in, 2 of them under green, on lap 166. So we could accept probably 3 more pit stops before the end of this race if we continue on without a yellow intervention, which doesn't seem particularly likely. Hogan has lost a spot to Landies, it would seem, or Landers, or Lands, or Colton.
I believe he actually came out 3 wide of traffic, and that's what lost him a lot of time on the pit exit as well. Keep in mind, Landis undercut him on the racetrack by 2 laps. So that gained the buffer for the 32. He's up 26 spots from his starting position as Ray's already in the lead with Maines now in the pit lane. And by the way, if I'm looking at this right, has now lapped his way in just about the entire field.
Well, I'm going home.
Oh my gosh.
No. We're not even at halfway yet. Halfway is like 183.5. I don't even know what to say.
Well, Solis Jr. lost time, by the way, on his pit window. Actually lost some time on the lane itself, as well as had a longer pit stop time. So that's put him about 6 as a result. You want Justin Levine after his mistake? He's now 44 seconds behind your race leader in 9th.
The battle between P2 through to P6 is actually pretty tight. So, Colton in the 32 car, running second. That's Boyd Hogan, who looks back on there. About 10 car lengths back is Tyler Justice, maybe a little bit further. Half the back straight, actually. Hernandez in 5th. They've actually spread out. They were a bit closer a couple laps ago. I think tyres coming up to temperature for some of them.
Easy pass there on screen, though, for Boyd Hogan as Landis let him on go, but Boyd's probably punching the air right now in the cockpit, because if Ray's not there... Yeah, if Ray's not there, he's likely one of the favorites to win this race. I don't think anyone expected this type of dominance in this type of race, even with the race coming up.
Can we submit the race to iRacing Top 10 highlights? Just all 367 laps of Malik Ray?
That's an Alex Horn question. Good question, though. Man, oh man.
Yeah. Top 10 highlights number 1. Malik Ray slaps the field at Darlington.
At this point, again,
Oh, by the way, there's only 11 cars 1 lap down. Ippolito with 12 was 2 adrift.
Yeah, well, technically 10, as Hernandez actually gained some spots in the pit window with his undercut call. Up to 5th. Trying to hold on to Jose Solis Jr. on the fresher tires. I think going to just give him the space here with Solis Jr. getting the better run and Hernandez just struggling on tightness on that mid-run.
Look at that damage. That's an interesting damage that he's got. The front of the bumper's been lifted up.
Yeah, it's just on the deck lid. He's actually clutch and coasting, believe it or not, now in the corners here. So I think it's time to get the handy-dandy calculators out, because if I'm adding this up right, we've seen about 70 laps or so on average a run so far. Looking okay-ish by about maybe 5 laps or so, give or take. But I wonder if Solis Jr. may be trying to go for the underfuel the car strategy, just wants to make sure he can make it to his pit stop lap delta. He went 73 laps, remember, last stint trying to stretch it long, and now he's in the fence.
Oof. That is more than a Darlington stripe that he's picked up there. That winning margin of 14 laps, it was 19.25 miles Ned Jarrett won that by. To 1950 something. Damn it, I had it and I lost it.
Yeah, keep in mind, that was a long ways ago in the early days of this track, yes, but the backstretch now used to be actually the front stretch, if you remember, Ryan, all the way up to the 1990s. Pit stalls used to be down the backstretch.
Jay might remember, but I don't.
So this track has seen a lot of changes, and remember that 1 and 2 used to be the run through the corner, where at the time, especially in the 70s, you were not usually going to see a pass at going through, at the time, 3 and 4. Remember, one of the best battles at that time, seen Darrell Waltrip come fight with the King at the time, sent it up the inside, and made it stick for a race victory at the time. A lot has changed since then, as Toyota and Levine looking to change positions.
Good move from Timu Toyota to take that spot away. I don't think there's a way we can find officially the biggest margin of victory in NIS competition.
It's going to take a lot of data interpretation.
Surely someone at iRacing could find it pretty quickly.
The interesting thing statistic-wise, and this is actually a good point, Ryan, is a lot of fans have actually gone into on the oval side, upload race data for events including LIS, noticed recently, so it's a good way to keep track of that. It's the best way to keep track of some of the past Coke stats, etc. And add that to some of the data you get from the iRacing site. As Solis Jr., he's hit the wall again, and keep in mind, you're going actually a bit quicker than you would by letting off the gas technically when you're clutch and coasting. I think that extra momentum is just sending Solis Jr. to the wall as major checkup.
Oh! And into the fence again. This is a very angry group of cars. Tyler Justice was the one that really checked up and solicited to go around him. Harrison Lyon is there as well. This could be a caution. Contact out of 4 with the 4. Check out the run that Johnny Boulderidge just got. He goes by 3 of them.
Oh, this is still hairy. Lyons trying to get through. Benson's just backed off and said, you know what, get me out of here. And Boulderidge is, well, they're along for the ride. Man, how did they save all of that is all I can think of there.
Still going on, Jose Solis Jr. and Colton Landy is a side-by-side for P3. And Jr. going to take it away. Colton will slot in behind as Bill Bollinger and Tyler Justice are side-by-side as well. Harrison Lyon now going to go by. You can see that at the back of the shot out of turn 2. Almost 3 wide as Boulderidge swung a hard left and Ippolito traced him.
Keep in mind, Lyons still trying to punch his way through some of this traffic, is behind Cecil Green on the racetrack for position. But remember, trying to just feel things out, finish off this race with the difference about a quarter of a track. Battle for 11 is also going on, and all this madness here with all these air cars just trying to get themselves either on by or get passed by these two.
Got to say as well, Boyd Hogan, he's not let Malik get any further away from him. He's actually keeping him pretty honest. And remember, Hogan will get the lucky dog if the caution comes out. So he's got some decent pace, it would seem. At the same time, there's every possibility that Malik Ray is not pushing anymore, because why would he?
I mean, when you lap the field, you have that luxury, right? We're past halfway in the race and past the point where you would have the Coke race, so I think he's committed now to just saying, you know what? I want to try and see how far I can go. At this point, I think honestly, he might have the pace to potentially lap the field twice. If things go his way as we look still at the battle for 11, then they're catching back up the line in company.
Yeah, Justin Levine's the last car, 1 lap down. In 10th. Didn't think I'd be saying that today. We have officially gone past halfway as well, as you mentioned. And the sun is very much in sunset mode. It's almost fully dark and under the guide of the lights. Colton is struggling a bit now after running up in second for a moment, it seems. And now he's looking back as Boulderidge and Ippolito want to come by him from a lap further back. Boulderidge had a 4-tire slide going on there.
Yes, indeed, and this is still getting dicey, I think, here. Have to be careful. And I don't point Boulderidge for fighting a little bit here because this is one of his better performances. He had good starting position tonight. Yes, it's not been pretty on the track in some cases for him, but he might be able to come away with a top 10 based on the pace and strategy. Have to wait and see, just have to make sure he doesn't, hit cars as they still scrap around him and try and reel him in, as well as potentially bundle up into the wall as more pit stops. 17 is in for a scheduled pit stop. Remember, he's off cycle.
Yep, Andrew Skolnick. Probably staring down the barrel of an extra pit stop if this doesn't get broken up by a caution. Boulderidge, Ippolito down low. Boulderidge going to fight him, and he's going to carry the momentum off the top side of the corner. So Ippolito's going to have to work for this spot. Levine, by the way, has been lapped again, leaving just 9, a lap down. Once you're 2 laps down, then it becomes a bit of a how the heck do we get back on the lead lap scenario. At least with 1 lap down, you've always got the chance of a wave around. But from 2 laps, it's a task you never want to set yourself, Justin.
Not really sure at this point what he can really do here. Has a bit of sparks going in his face here, and keep in mind still, give credit to Ippolito from AOD Racing. has had a really good car tonight. Finally has a run here with Hernandez catching up from behind as well.
Can he clear him this time? Tried to slide up in front of him, but couldn't quite clear. So Baldridge again going to hang on. And now Hernandez is going to grab a bit of track position as he goes by Ippolito, who lets him go. And Ippolito will be hoping that as Hernandez goes by Baldridge, it opens the way for himself to follow through and hopefully take away that spot.
And it looks like they'll also do with Cecil Green, who actually, I think, had some problems in 1 and 2 because he lost a spot to Lyon. Yes, indeed, he went to the apron, smacked the wall as Seth Knoll tried to lap him, and in turn, moved Lyon up to 24th, and now Green's having some problems with that car.
Down on the apron, that is Matthew Benson. Well, I think we're on board with Seth Ryder here.
Yes, indeed.
Yep, that's Benson up the road. I'm riding on board with Malik Ray on my sim, and I'm looking at the back of Garrett Maines. Sorry, Timo Toika.
And the intriguing thing is whenever Ray's got clean air, he is up to 3/10 quicker. In some cases than Boyd Hogan still. In some cases, right now in the field, he's up to a full second quicker than them. So again, a chance to lap up to 9th. Also has a lot more traffic to deal with. I think maybe able to get maybe to Sean Powell by the next pit stop window. And then to that point, who knows where things play out here with the pace that has been seen tonight. Give credit to a lot of these drivers tonight who have really smashed in some of their fenders, have really slammed some of the walls. They've been able to keep on chugging along. They've not given up any effort. They've been looking to try and get as far as they can in this race tonight. In what has been just a one caution race. One of the most clean races for a full distance event in NIS this year and in the past couple years here at Darlington.
Toika's gone 2 laps down now. Sean Powell, Garrett Maines, Hernandez, Colton, Tyler Justice, Jose Celis Jr., Boyd Hogan. The only cars left a lap down. All of them, I think, should be safe, though, Justin, because if you look at where they are on the racetrack, they're pretty far ahead of where Malik Ray is running.
And there's Solis Jr. laying by some of the traffic. In fact, he's laying by Tyler Justice. I want to talk a bit about Phase 2 because they've had a lot of phases with their organization over the past year or so with different shuffles, different team setup builders. Their main focus in the past year or so has been more so in C Open and Road to Pro action. But tonight's been one of their best performances I think I've ever seen from them, in a while at least, in a Cup car. So give credit to Tyler Justice and the whole organization there for having a decent car tonight in terms of long run pace here at Darlington, as more traffic is abound this time for Garrett Maines in P7 to deal with.
And very quickly, he went from being very much in the sunset phase of this race to it is nighttime now. Down one half of the racetrack. You can still see the sun setting over the back of 3 and 4, but well, I think that's 1 and 2 actually, but it's gone. Those lights around the top of the racetrack have taken hold, and we are into the second phase of this race where, well, normally we'd be talking about does Malik Ray's car still hold up as good when the track is cooling down and it's nighttime, but I don't really think that's a talking point anymore.
I think it's more so if you're on the setup building side to try and plan things up for this time of day, because keep in mind there are some slightly different weather conditions for the respective drivers for the Coke Series, for their respective calendar. Taking a quick glance quickly at that, to be precise, the in-sim time is about the same, believe it or not. About 6 p.m. in-sim time. But the interesting thing is going to be how the sun sets in that race, if you have cautions, precautions to extend the race. I think you just want to all have all that play out here and see how the car is going to handle throughout an entire race. Just have as much data and laps put in for practice as they can in this respective race.
And it is all about data collection now for that race leader. Everyone else fighting for their iRating points, trying to get as many as they can. And trying to keep their car clean as well. With a long distance race, a big opportunity to gain some big safety rating. And as the season's about to wrap up, that could be crucial if some of these drivers are in need of some points to keep themselves afloat in their license, or even pop up an extra license. Although I would hazard a guess that everyone in this race is already at Class A.
But not only that, the championship battle as Solis Jr. hits the wall again. Man, they've got to do something with those race cars. Unfortunately, it's just not been working for him. He's actually single pitting in. I think he's had some more problems in that car. Or at least hit the wall so hard, he hit his push button for the pit stops. They are fighting for championship points, mind you, because there is a series championship where Garrett Maines is that official points leader with 17 victories in NAS competition this season and 23 total starts. Drivers like Solis Jr. were as high as the top 10, and Solis Jr. says, you know what? I'm tapping out. He's out of the race.
Yep. Keith Bridgman just whacked the fence in front of Malik Ray, almost spun it, and dropped a bunch of time. Went all the way down to the apron to catch that car.
Yeah, lost a lot of time. Had a little bit of a nervous moment, he's saying over the radio, I believe. Johnny Baldridge, meanwhile, this has just been a continuous fight now, which is going to be for a top 10, as we were just talking about, possibly for this grouping. Tommy Gossett has quietly also come into this battle as well. We haven't even said Tommy Gossett's name since the grid, I don't think, right?
Talked about him a couple times, but he's been quietly achieving in this battle just outside the top 10, running 12th at the moment. Ty Polito and Johnny Baldridge right in front of him in the battle for P10. Here we go. We've seen this a few times before. Ippolito to the inside of Baldridge. This time, he might be able to do it through 1 and 2, and he does. And Tommy Gossett is going to go through as well. So Baldridge loses 2 spots in just a few hundred meters. Look at the gap that Ippolito pulled just through that set of corners alone.
Yeah, Gossett really had to back it up to make sure he didn't hit Baldridge there, but good racecraft move, I think, from Baldridge. Just back up, hit your marks, refocus, plan things out for the pit window, because we're still, at least for drivers like Baldridge, Gossett, and company, about 25 laps or so until their next scheduled pit stops. It's still the waiting game to see how you're going to have the fuel mileage play out, how the tires are going to play out, where you're going to be all positioned by the time you get to the final window to make it to the end of this race, as Hernandez is ready to try and jump up to 4th. That car, as we talked about, has been not good riding in the mid-run, but good on the long run, if that makes sense.
Yes. Cars can go through phases as well, so I think the setups and the tires, because if you heat them up, it takes quite a long time for them to really cycle back into where they're nice to drive on in terms of the temperature window. But also the setup as well. You can start off really well, and then it can sort of fade away from you, but it might come back at the end of the run. And you'll often see that reflected in the margins on the leaderboard. But you can't today.
Want to touch back on what we just seen for Justin Levine. I think we're having some alternate strategies, and this is something I heard a couple teams discuss for the night time. Wonder if Levine's trying the undercut, see how things play out, try and split it up maybe 160, maybe 100, and then try and split it up maybe 50-ish, give or take. Try and play around with those numbers to try and offset some of the tires and gain some extra spots for the finish, preserve a bit of IR in points. Curious if anyone else tries to do it so far, because the majority of these drivers have decided, you know what, I just want to stretch it as long as I can go in case you get some trouble. take my pit stop and go and try and keep as many tire sets in the pits as possible.
I mean, they're not even close to using 13, are they? If you took up the next pit stop window, in the first one, Ray opened up a 10-second lead. In the second one, he lapped the entire field, when before it, he still had 6 cars left to lap. In this one, he might put another half a lap on Boyd Hogan, who's slowly fading away from him. Hey, we might come out of this next pit stop cycle with only the top 4 in the lead lap. Well, a lap down. There's only 7 at the moment. Team Matoika's 8th, 2 laps down.
Still all intriguing how this is all played out. Still a lot of improvement this year from Gossett. I know he's been working a lot to try and work on his racecraft, especially with low-line racing. He was known more so in 2019 for his aggression at times. He's dialed it back since joining Lowline, especially in the past couple months or so. Give him credit. Decent run throughout this point as we continue to chug along, coming towards about lap 215 next time by Ryan.
Yep. And hit lap 215, 367, 142 laps to go. Thereabouts. Here at Darlington Raceway, it's Malik Ray by a lap over the field. We're going to go some speed side by side.
Oh boy.
Right side. Still there. Wide. Still there. All right.
Whoop.
Still there.
Oh boy. Oh.
Wide.
Oh, we got him.
You're right.
Oh my god.
Finish.
What?
100.
Wow. Hey, good race, good race.
Opportunity at this stage, and he just needs to keep his nose clean and keep doing what he's doing at the moment because he's doing it right. That's a big slide from Preston up Blue Guys.
How has he saved it? Oh my word. What a save, an iRacing top 10. You need to put that save back in. I want a replay of that one as we see the likes of Scott Zlowski going on.
The last chicane. I think this will be the opportunity if there is going to be one, and you'll see here Purnell will defend as he is sitting on the inside line there. What can the Porsche do? He's going to try and go around the outside. I'm not sure he's going to get that to stick as he pushes it through, and he's managed to do it. He's managed to get through for the lead. On the second to last corner of the race, he has managed to get through to the lead, Braden Nash, and to take the lead of this race. He's going to snatch it from Purnell.
But they weren't utilizing it as much as this is going to be trouble down at 3. Never mind, they give him room there. Come on, look at that! What a save!
Oh my goodness!
A save by, who is that? Michael Frisch. That's where traction control is your friend.
How in the world did he save that?
Holy.
welcome back to the Maverick Race Show from Darlington. The Southern 500 is in a stage of absolute domination today, as Malik Ray leads by a lap over Boyd Hogan, Tyler Justice, Colton Landers, Jonathan Hernandez, Garrett Mange and Sean Powell. The rest of the field 2 laps down or more. And we're on board with Hernandez now at the pack in the moment, just behind Colton for 4th.
One of the closer battles on the racetrack, only 44 seconds behind the race leader in terms of timing, but you also have to keep in mind of Maines in this grouping. Justice is also hooked onto this grouping. So 3rd on back is near dead even on pace, especially with the traffic maneuvering, especially with drivers like Willis having to cut their way through and or let cars go. It's been interesting as Pistol has now come in for his scheduled stop, 67 laps this stint this time.
So you're going to pit twice more, won't he, to get to the end? 290, then it'll leave him about 10 laps short, won't it?
Should be fine in terms of the math, adding it up in my head, should be fine by about 10 laps more so.
Okay.
It's just more so, I think, how you time it out. And in turn, how much fuel you put in the race car if you're factoring GWCs. Here comes some bold moves for Hernandez now, trying to get the 3rd. Nearly just here. Gets up to 4th either way.
Yeah, it's Jetty Willis right in front of him. Tyler Justice is just driven away a little bit from them. And in fact, now Colton's coming to pit road.
Hearing Ray coming in this time by. He's now trying to warn cars behind as lots of marbles Ray's going through, but again, just avoids a speeding penalty right at 45 on the dot.
Yep, he's got those potentiaries hooked up, and that was not Powell. Seth Knoll, I reckon he hit the water barrels. Or he missed him by the skin of his teeth.
I think he actually doored the water barrels. I think you're right there in the Nexus Esports machine. Take a look here in the modem simulation replay and watch the right side. He's looking okay, trying to gain some extra speed at the very bottom of the racetrack, and then just starts sliding up as he goes here and bounces off those barriers and helps him slow down the car, but adds a little bit of door damage to his car.
The problem is you're trying to get the car turned at the same time you're trying to get it slowed down. That's why this potentially is so difficult. And Malik Ray pitted from the lead and is going to emerge in the lead. That's almost unheard of in oval racing when the guys 2nd and 3rd stay out. Or at least 2nd place mains.
I don't think it's heard of either for 4th place in all this to be 1 minute and 24 seconds back. Hogan also pit that time. Hernandez jumped by Landis, though, in the strategy. He was losing a lot of time right before his pit stop, so don't blame him for his call. Justice, though, extended his run, so did Seth Ryder, trying to play a little bit of strategy for their respective positions. Have a little bit fresher tires, and have a little bit extra fuel for the end.
We have been now 210 laps green. Or thereabouts.
Yep, that is your longest run of the entire week.
Yeah.
Full stop. In the Wednesday race, they win about half the race green, Ryan. They didn't approach 200, not even close. This is just unheard of.
Biggest of the year so far.
Yes, indeed. And again, want to give credit to all these drivers for keeping it clean. There's been a couple moments here and there, but overall, again, a lot of restraint shown and good race respect out here, wanting to make sure you get to the end.
Whoa,
now that we're under the lights. Caution is out!
Malik Ray! It's Malik Ray! He's been involved and he's got big damage!
Are you kidding?
No way! Leading by a lap. They wrecked in front and he had nowhere to go.
Joshua Campbell's not going to live this down. The Dynamic Autosports car hit the wall in front of Ray, tried to keep it off Levine, who was coming out of the pit road, and Ray just had nowhere to go. Bam, yeah. And a hard hit to the inside, too. Wow.
Levine had, I think, actually... had his own half spin as well.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Understand he kept it off Levine. But again, nowhere for Ray to go, as that's all the Dead Zone Technical Alliance cars involved in the incident tonight for the Joe Gibbs Gaming Machine. That is absolutely unbelievable.
An overcorrection as well from Campbell. You would have expected him to spin to the inside, which I think is why Malik Ray is really annoyed by that, because that car should have spun down low, not turned back right. He's now pulled off to take a turn back to pit lane as the car in second place gets the lucky dog.
And Ray's done. Ray's done. He just DNF'd out of the race. He is out of the race. Boyd is now your leader as the lucky dog.
Technically, Malik's still leading.
But he's now off the track.
Yeah.
Boyd is now the only car in the lead lap now because of this. I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple. That's about it. This is bizarre.
Yeah, so because Boyd Hogan got the lucky dog, Malik Ray pulling off, it would have put him on the same lap as Ray, but Ray's retired. That leaves Boyd Hogan as the only car in the lead lap. The rest of them are going to take the wave around, you would suspect, because Hogan's going to be at the tail of the field.
Yeah, there are a few laps on their tires, but you have to. You kind of have to at this point, right? I think Hogan actually just stayed on the racetrack this time, thinking about all of this, saying, you know what? He's only on 7-lap-old tires. He might be able to pin some cars here. I'm not sure how this is going to play out here now.
So many in front of him, though. So many cars are getting a wave around here.
Yeah, but not all of them can take the wave. Levine and Benson are on much older tires here. 30 and 17 respectively. Everyone else might be able to get away with it.
So this has gone from a potential iRacing top 10 submission for Ray dominating to an iRacing not top 10 submission for Ray getting taken out from leading by a lap. I think either way, we've still got it covered. It is open to the door, though, for the rest of the field.
The arena was 212 laps under green that entire run. Now it's essentially a one-stopper to the end, and it's interesting how this is going to again play out here, because now Hogan's in control of this field. And there he is for his scheduled pit stop here with the lucky dog. And again, you may as well take the fresh tires, right? He's got a lot of sets on his bank because there's a lot of green flag runs here. I'm just still trying to do the math here on how this is going to play out. Landis, Hernandez, and Justice, I know absolutely can take the wave. Maines, I think, maybe pinned a lap still. If I'm looking at scoring, yes. Maines is still pinned, and that pins everyone else still with him.
They don't know in sim either, by the way. That helps out at all.
I mean, how often do you see this?
Never.
Yeah.
I've never seen a one-lap lead get taken out to trigger the caution, and then the ensuing mess that it causes.
Looks like Boyd Hogan had about 10 seconds of option to the right, too. Ryan, rather, too. So he's got his car fixed up here, so he's going to be at near peak performance. This may have just opened up the door for Hogan to try and win this race.
Yeah, we'll see.
Try to go 2 for 3.
On the pace car. Wave rounds begin for Garrett Maines. So he'll go back on the lead lap. No, he won't, because he's already lapped it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, only 4 cars on the lead lap here, despite all these wave rounds. I don't even know who's going to be the control car here, actually, Ryan. Yeah, this is going to get interesting because... Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
And the Lucky Dog can't be the control car on the restart. The Lucky Dog normally has a tail end. But because he's... Okay, the pace car's about to peel off and there's no one there. The pace car's peeling off and there's no one to take the green. Oh, what is happening?
And I think the green just flew in all this. I've got nothing.
I don't know.
What in the world is this?
We're back racing at Darlington. This.
I don't think Hogan knew where. I don't think Hogan knew where he was going to be. I think a couple drivers got black flags.
Yeah, it comes straight down.
This is a first, and here's another one. Willis got a black flag too. I think Landis also got one too.
So Hogan's by 5 seconds, and there is 4 cars on the lead lap.
Check that. That was Ippolito, pardon me. As you see, Landis is still in second, thankfully for him, but 5 seconds back. But oh man, this race just jumped the shark.
Battle for second. Colton Landis trying to run away from Hernandez. So yeah, 4 cars lead lap. Garrett Maines in 5th, first car a lap down. There are 10 cars. Matthew Benson in 10th is the last car, 1 lap down. Ippolito in 11th is 2 adrift. Garrett Maines is on the racetrack. Not too far behind Hogan. 5.6 back, 7.1 back, 7.8 back for second, third, and fourth. But
so this is the gift of the night or the week at least, if you're Landis Hernandez and Justice, right? Because and the caution's out, a wreck down the backstretch. Benson.
Well, this will sort it out.
I believe the trigger may have been Cecil Green, who is right on the bottom on the exit, but ended up coming across the nose just about of the 17 as he started to push down a little bit. See if we can take a look here on the moment simulation replay here, Ryan, and this is what I'm talking about. See the 17 nearly tapped the wall, Green pushed up a bit. 50-50 racing deal, and a couple cars smacked the wall as a result, trying to avoid everything.
And everyone else comes back to pit road. Hernandez is going to come in. So a bunch of those drivers that took the wave around now get their fresh tyres that they wanted. Garrett Maines in 5th place is the lucky dog.
And I think this is going to mean Boyd Hogan may stay out to pin the R cars, but yeah. Benson just check up, no time to react as he got slammed to the inside wall. We went from one of the most dominating performances, cleanest races of the season, to one of the most bizarre in the span of 10 minutes. I believe that's a record, Ryan, for how quickly the race changed from that to that.
I think that's more like a minute. As soon as Malik Ray retired, while still leading the race by a lap, things became a bit crazy. At least this restart should be a little bit more straightforward.
The interesting thing is going to be now, Hogan's on older tires, and I understand this call. I would take it too. Because if you pit, you allow Powell, Toyka, Baldridge, Levine, and potentially Benson back into the race. Instead, Hogan staying out behind this pace car forces all of them to stay a lap down. They can take tires, yes, but this works right to where if this race has a long run, Ryan, Again, it's Hogan's to control here with the tempo here. It's just going to have to deal with the cars on fresher tires behind him here.
Well, yeah, now he's got Hernandez, Justice, and Colton all on fresh rubber, lining up behind him on the restart. So,
well, and Mains 2, who is also at the back of the end of the longest line here after everything on fresh tires too.
yeah, but Hernandez is literally alongside him. So, this is going to make life very interesting for Hogan. When was he last on pit road?
Just only about 8-9 laps ago. So again,
Caution,
don't blame him.
And then Hernandez,
Only about 3-4 laps on the green.
Hernandez on fresh tires. Shouldn't be too much of a difference, though. A couple laps cars there, but they'll get end of lines. We're going to have a fight for the lead on this restart with 117 to go.
Well, it's still a one-stopper from here as well when you think about it again on the fuel mileage. If it goes green from here, maybe pit stops around 50 to go. May see some undercut calls at about 60 to go. Now, if you're a strategist, you're licking your chops and trying to punch all the numbers in. Do you split the race in half? Do you try and extend the run and try and get the freshest tires and try and gain time from behind? That's going to be interesting determination here as believe 2 to go signal to allow all the cars who were hoping for a wave instead have to let all the air cars on by who are on the lead lap and cycle behind them.
Yep. Mains as well, having to do the same, go to the tail line by running the apron there. He'll have a lot of traffic to get through. Like the entire field worth of traffic to get through. He'll be hoping for a quick caution again to put him back up there with those top 4. We should get the 1 to go next time.
Should note that Hickson, who was in 25th with significant damage coming in this time for some more damage repairs. But those are 2 friends up towards the front. Remember, Hernandez was with Boyd's team for a significant amount of time up to a couple weeks ago. They still have some conversations here and there over the past few days especially. So I think Hernandez is going to have some give and take, but at the same time, this is Hernandez's chance to try and come away with a win in this race. Remember, he basically had to dodge several cars for a top 10 finish at Daytona last week in his first broadcasted NIS race for his new team. But Hernandez did.
How about Colton? There's 5 cars on the lead lap. One of them is the lowest I-rated car in the field, who we've not seen all season.
I mean, I've seen him before. He's pretty decent in terms of pace. This is a good chance to try and get some eyeballs on him if he can try and come away with some good pace here. See how he adjusts to this scenario and tries to battle here. So this is going to be crucial for his driving stock now with a lot of eyeballs on him. Coming towards 116 to go. This is already been interesting. It's about to get even more interesting with this green.
We've somewhat cleansed the field now. It's 5 cars on the lead lap. Coming back to the green, Hogan jumps on that throttle pedal back, racing at Darlington. And that is a much more normal restart than last time.
As expected, Hernandez gave a bit of space. I don't think he was wanting to give away second, though, at the same time to Tyler Justice. Decent start, though, for Hogan, but the difficult thing is going to be trying to hold off these air cars on the significantly older tires. 7
to the inside, Justin, for the lead of the race. Hogan going to fight him, though, holding that top line.
Oh, contact behind! There's a spin!
Caution's back out. Whoa, that's a big wreck on the main straight. Half a dozen cars, maybe more, caught up in this one. Justin Levine copping a piece of it. Oh no, Colton's in it.
And he actually got loose in turn 4 a little bit on the apex. Bobbled the back end and then got some help from behind from Ty Ippolito from 10th place. Watch this, Ippolito's right on behind. You'll see right on the apex. Landis is really trying to send it, nearly snaps the car, just about stabilizes it, gets some extra help. Not enough time for a couple others to react as it was a massive bunch up. off the corner.
It was. And with another caution in quick succession, we're going to duct to another break here on Sim Speed. We are getting closer to that run to the line. 100 or so to go here from Darlington.
Welcome back, everyone, to Darlington Raceway. Justin Prince, Ryan Jones will rejoin me in a few moments, and it's been a bizarre one in the second half of this race. We've seen a driver lap the whole field, end up getting involved in an incident, having another car pin the whole field a lap down, and now we have 5 on the lead lap. Green flag is out, 110 laps to go. Tyler Justice is now your race leader. Hernandez, Maines, Hogan, and Landis are all still on the lead lap. Everybody else is pinned 1 lap down here at Darlington. Keep in mind that Landis was involved in the last caution flag, had significant repairs to the back end of the race car. Still up to decent pace though. Also has some left front damage and some splitter damage for his respective race car. Johnny Baldridge is in the lucky dog spot here for this fight up towards the front. Speaking up towards the front, during that side-by-side, Hogan did take 4 tires under the caution. Everybody else stayed out, so a couple laps fresher tires for Boyd Hogan in this pack of cars. Tyler Justice for phase 2, looking to try and have one of its biggest wins of the season. ERG looking for one of its biggest wins since its restructuring a few months ago. Garrett Maines looking to add to his wins total to grow his NIS Open points lead for the overall standings, while Hogan's looking to go 2 for 3, still 107 to go with a lot of strategy on the line in this respective race. Keep in mind the battle for the lucky dog spot, by the way, has a 1-car buffer between Baldridge along with Timo Toyka. That car you see from behind is David Brown, who was one of the cars who got a black flag under the last restart, or one of the few restarts ago, with some of the craziness. At this point, it's going to take a bit of speed bump up now for Toyka to try and close on in. He's actually backed up a lot in the past lap Toyka has compared to the cars in front, lifted off the gas hard, trying to clutch and coast. Meanwhile, back up towards the front. The lap times right now in the 27.5 for your race leaders. The fastest laps of the race were set hours ago in the sun time by Matt Busa, who ran a 27 flat, who had a rocket ship on the short run, if you remember, back to the early stages. Ended up electing to leave early, about 30 laps into the race, after being as high as the race lead, after a back and forth in playtime with a couple drivers. Speaking of playtime, Boyd Hogan diving his way with playtime with Garrett Maines for P3. And near contact, and Hogan's now got a little more damage again. Hogan might not be happy from that little bit of squeeze, just a little bit more right front damage on his machine. Lost a lot of time to Maines as well, who was trying to get a little bit lower on the arc to avoid hitting the outside wall, it appeared. Should note the 17 has pit from 17th under this green flag. Appears to have a problem just 8 laps into this respective stint. So Andrew now will lose at least a lap as a result, as Hernandez is still 2/10 back for the race lead. Maines is about half a second back. Here's a look on board with Hernandez rather, as he tries to close up this gap. Remember, he's been good on the long runs and the short runs. The middle of the runs have been the difficult part in this respective race so far.
Indeed, and with 100 and so to go, it's at that point where you expect they might be able to go green to the end, especially with that massive green flag run we had. Hey, Justin, I mean, we've had a couple quick cautions now, I think, in part and fact because of the craziness we had. But we should be settling in now, and interesting to see how Boyd Hogan goes after taking those 4 tires and dropping off the lead as a result.
I'm intrigued in that as well. You see several of the cars still chugging along to the back of the field, like Tommy Gossett without a front nose in 13th position. And again, if you stay on the track, you have the chance to get a decent points haul and an SR point haul because, well, you're going full distance, even with the significant amount of incident points. So that's something to keep in mind. But back towards that front you were talking about. a little bit. Want to go back towards the battle for third. Because Hogan, he's reeled in the back end of Garrett Maines. And remember, there was contact just moments ago, Ryan, off turn 4. I'm curious what Hogan does here when he gets the back bumper again to Maines.
This top 4 is so tight. So good to see the top 4 covered by half a second as Maines slaps the fence. After the gaps we had earlier on in this race, does that contact allow Hogan to get a run to the inside as Maines grazes it again? Hogan now up into P3.
Yeah, that tap to the wall just helped him. I think Maines just said, I think on the radio, in fact, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to give you the spot. So, to paraphrase, Boyd is very happy right now in that cockpit. And the difference in those tires, even when he's got cleaner spaces, still about a couple tenths of a second. That's how big the fall-off is. The equalization point is still about 10 laps out on the cycle.
Under 100 to go now. 3/10 the gap between Hogan and Maines. Maines starting to just fall off a little bit, it would seem. Colton is in 5th, so he's done all right to keep on the lead lap here, hasn't he, Justin? And he's, yeah, he doesn't seem to have the pace anymore, but he's not that far off after that damage.
Yeah, he's about a tenth or so off a lap, and I think, again, it's just that splitter damage. Just, again, if he gets an air caution, I think he can get a lot of it fixed, but it's not going to be 100% again. Still, though, curious what Hernandez does here. He's given a lot of space to Boyd whenever he's gotten a run before so far. But this now heading towards points paying time. Question is going to be, does that continue now with under 100 to go?
And the aggression level is going to go up, that's for sure. As Hogan has a look at the inside. Can't quite get the overlap there. You need to get the overlap to make these moves work, obviously, by the entry. Because if you don't, but outside line's able to take their optimal line, they can cut back down on the exit and really get the power down early. But if you're down there, they've got to keep themselves between yourself and the fence, and that delays when they can get on the throttle. And it also can make you a bit tentative as well, because of how close you do end up on the exit of the corner.
Absolutely, and keep in mind, drivers like Robert Miller will tell you, it's way too easy to where you can just charge the corner too hard, as mentioned, but just missing your lifting point. Different lifting points here for these respective cars. Hernandez feels more confident sending it in. Boyd's trying to back it up to try and get a good run off the exit. Just can't get it to stick the way he wants it to try and diamond the corner to try and build up enough momentum to then in turn try and get underneath Hernandez and take away that spot.
Yeah, these top 3, they seem very evenly matched now, don't they? Hogan, even with those fresher tyres, doesn't seem to be performing quite as well as maybe we might expect.
He was actually expecting the car to be the quickest at this point of the race, actually, Ryan, believe it or not. Under the nighttime was what it was focused on. But I think it's in part some of that damage that's on the right front that's hurting him for some of the straight line speed, as well as just, again, bit of dirty air that's factoring in a little bit. The tires have equaled out, and one car is having trouble down the front. That's Brown. No caution.
Ooh, keep it straight. Trying to get that power down when the rear tires are lighting like a volcano. It is very tricky, and he can keep it straight, and he does just that. Here's the replay. He was helped around, says our director, and helped around he was. 25 gets into him.
Yeah, that's Bollinger right here. Bollinger works with a few Coke drivers this season. Has a bit of momentum. And Brown, yeah, just got hit from behind. Gives him space to save it. Bounces off the wall, back across the nose of Bollinger. And then at this point, it's just like, you know what? I got to keep going. Pushes on forward, and Brown just avoids triggering a caution by maybe a couple inches.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't bring out a caution, actually. That was very close. Tyler Justice whacks the fence from the lead. Keeps his pace up, but probably giving himself a bit of a scare.
I think it's more so the concern of, okay, how's that car going to be if, depending on how hard he hit it, looks clean visually. So no significant damage to Justice. On the downside, they have the pleasure of reaching Brown, who just had the mistake before. And now Hernandez and Hogan are quick in 1 and 2, but Justice has been decent off of turn 4 so far in this run.
Justice right up against the fence. Hernandez a couple inches lower. And then Hogan a couple inches lower than that. Through 3 and 4. Now they catch David Brown. And does this hold Justice up? Certainly through 1 and 2. He stayed right behind him. Does he pull over and let them go? No. Justice is going to have to dive to the low side through 3 and 4. And Hernandez can't quite find the gap to go with him. Now he's able to clear Brown, and Hogan has to do it on the exit.
Yeah, that's going to really hurt Hogan. You don't want to reach a lap car off the corner exit. Significant time lost to the Nexus car, about 2 to 3 car lengths. I think he may be able to try and regroup it. Now the interesting point is again going to be, if you're Hernandez, how do you try and make this pass? They've gone back and forth, as we've seen all night, Ryan, for that position on several different stints. Now, with Justice being the quicker car in 3 and 4, and Hernandez the quicker car in 1 and 2, which car is going to end up prevailing here, and which car in turn is going to be the first to blink for the pit stops once we get the green light to go on fuel?
What's that critical lap number then? Is it about lap 300?
About so, yes. But the interesting part's going to be with 60 to go, I think is where we might see some of the undercuts. Split the race in half. That was the point, give or take, where some of the cautions started building up and where a lot of the cars fueled up. About 50-ish laps to go, I think, is the furthest some of these cars in turn can go, Ryan, on their fuel tanks. So it's the question, will we see a massive undercut, or will we see drivers try and stretch it out for the gas?
If Hernandez thinks it's being held up right now, he'd go for the undercut, wouldn't he? Maybe Boyd Hogan goes for the overcut because his tyres are slightly pressure.
I would too, absolutely. Because we've seen how much of a difference with fall-off there has been tonight. About still 2 seconds for these cars. They're actually running on par with the laps Ray had been running before he had his trouble. Keep in mind, all this could change if, say, battles like this get too heated.
Well, we've already had a great example today of how things change from a seemingly done deal to absolute disaster. What has Tommy Gossett done?
Well, that's a little bit of a sly job there. Park the bus for Bollinger, get by the modified, bit of contact to the back end. That's Bollinger just saying, I need to get by. I believe Bollinger actually just hit this time by as well.
Oh, he's given Justice a hit.
That was for position.
Hernandez was happy it seemed to sit behind Justice into turn 3. Gave him a big shot as they entered the corner. And Justice had his hands full.
Apologies over the radio here as now a bit argy-bargy. Hogan hit the back end of Hernandez too in turn 4. So everybody's now getting right to the very edge of their limits here. Good run for Hernandez again.
It seems like he doesn't want to pass him. It's not really a fuel-saving track, is it? Justin?
No, I don't think it's too optimal to try and fuel save. I think it's more so he's waiting for the right time to build a run. Hogan now feels like he's faster. Hernandez gets giving it to him. Giving a chance for Hogan to now try and take this.
It's not too much point in scrapping this hard at the moment. They're not under any pressure from behind. Maines is sitting about 1.7 back, and Colton's struggling on this damaged car, holding on purely because he's the last car on the lead lap in 5th. Only 3 cars 1 lap down as well.
And that's still Baldridge, Ryder, and Toyka, who are still in various parts of the racetrack. Baldridge still in that lucky dog spot. Ryder's trying to close in on him. Is actually about a tenth or so quicker lap. Then you have Toyka, who is still even with Baldridge, but a decent point back. But either way, Hogan, his chance to push is now. And if he times this up right with the strategy and some of this traffic, he might be able to try and go 2 for 3 on the week so far in NAS competition. Lap traffic is holding up the race leader again.
That is Ty Polito, 2 laps down, 13th. He's running. He's plus 15. Wouldn't know of how easily those leaders got by him there.
That was involved with the last caution, but yeah, lost about a tenth or so to jump for Justice. Now this is back to the point where we see how Hogan's going to fare out. Again, Justice has just not been good in 1 and 2, it seems, throughout this run. He's been bread and butter-like, though, in 3 and 4. Just been able to aim it perfectly, get on the gas very well, and gain some extra time off the corner here and some momentum compared to his competitors here.
Justice coming good. Watch out for that lapped car. Make sure it doesn't come up in front of him. Out of the corner. That was a good job from the 18 of Joshua Campbell not to slide up in front of the race leaders. Campbell, of course, made that mistake earlier on, which took out Ray. About 5 laps away from the window opening.
Who knows where this race is if that didn't happen, but take a look at this. Getting interesting as Bridgman and Crump are starting to get close on the racetrack for a fight for position. Garrett Maines, though, is also nearly running over the back into traffic. The 4th place car is 3 wide.
Ooh. A little bit awkward. We've seen so many awkward scenarios tonight of lead lap cars getting by lappers because of how crucial it is to maintaining momentum through these corners. Run that high line, and it really is a tight line. It's not one that promotes side by side.
Yeah, he actually lost about 2 seconds nearly, Ryan, because he had to check up so hard in 1 and 2. But in all of this, Hogan and Justice are now focused on their 2-car battle for the lead. Hernandez has dropped back 7/10 to the back into Hogan. Now with the green light to make it on fuel in just 2 laps, it becomes the point potentially of who pits first, and in turn, who hits their marks the best after the pit stop window.
Yeah, if you're right on board with Hogan right now, he's looking like he's the quicker of the 2. But I don't think he's pushing at the moment because he knows that he's got the fresher tyres. In theory, he should be the one going for the overcut here. And coming home really strong late in the race. But if he was to burn this stuff out now, it would destroy that strategy.
Yeah, but at the same time, remember, he had stayed out before that put him on this offside set to pin cars laps down. At the same time as well, I don't know if he's going to be able to close up a big enough gap like that with the traffic, Ryan, even on fresher tires. It's been done before. He made that call, actually, with Ray Alfalla at Atlanta for his win, where he pit for fresher tires. Some were doubting that call. Alfalla, in turn, blew by everybody and took the race lead and won the race by a significant margin. Wouldn't be surprised if he does that because he's done it before himself as a driver and won races in NIS by doing that call as well. So there is the balance of both, where he might have trouble with the traffic, but also might be able to repeat something he's done successfully a couple times.
Both of them actually had to get out of the throttle coming out of the corner there to avoid the fence. As Keith Bridgman did not avoid the fence, gave it a couple nudges in fact, and really checked up Timo Toyka.
And actually nosed it too, my goodness. Benson as well as Crump also avoid him, so Bridgman losing a couple spots. Yeah, that's potentially a decent amount of damage, maybe a little bit of motor damage. Not how Bridgman wanted this stint to progress, so to speak. as lots of these lap cars are trying to move out of the way, knowing this is likely for the win.
Pit window is open to make it to the end. Unless we get green light checkers.
Well, please don't jinx it with how crazy this race has gone. So at this point, yeah. Again, though, you plan this out, hoping it goes green the rest of the way. You can't just bank on a GWC in the final 3 laps of a race. So you're basically planning out to be a 68-lap race to the end from here. You don't plot it out for a 68-lap, maybe plus 2, plus 17-lap situation. Just how you manage as a driver and manage as a crew chief on the sim. Still no blank here yet, Ryan, in this regard for this fight so far. They have ditched Hernandez, though. Just more consistent on the times, and here comes a bit of a run again for Hogan. I think he's still trying to set this up for just, again, the right moment, or at least keep Justice within enough reach to where if Justice wants to pit, he's going to have to be near picture perfect on the entry to make sure he doesn't get hit from behind.
Yeah, he needs to peel off either early. Like, he would have to peel off pretty early, wouldn't he, actually? Because if he comes in late and turns it down, if Hogan's following him, he'll go right into his back bumper. Other thing he can do is he can come over the radio and tell Boyd that he's pitting. Unless Boyd pits before him, and he goes for the undercut strategy.
But here's the thing as well, and this is more so common on the super speedways these days. It's become more and more common policy to not let your rivals, so to speak, know when your window is going to be in unless you're in very significant traffic. Like at a track like Las Vegas. Or in a group, say, that you don't have teammates in for a super speedway. It's just how it's plotted out. So if you're Justice, you don't want to say, oh, I'm pitting this time, and then have Hogan completely follow you into the lane.
Yeah. The Lucky Dog fight for 6th place, Johnny Balderidge has got Seth Ryder for very close company now, and Ryder was about a 10th quicker on the last lap. Pretty crucial to get the Lucky Dog spot.
Now that Elliott Sauer Esports machine finally starting to come alive. It was a rough one at one point. Remember, Ryder was as deep as the 20s. Early on in this race, had some damage to that car, and now, with all the craziness that's happened, he's been able to get a lot of that damage fixed. The front splitter's nice and clean, very little side damage, a little bit of back left rear damage. Outside of that, car's very clean, and the raw pace is starting to come out for that respective race car. They're still about half of a tenth of a second difference on lap times on average, but Ryder is, as you mentioned, the quicker of the two, especially when he's got clean traffic, or clean track rather.
But now that he's driven up to right behind him, he's can't pass him. And I think this is the issue Hogan's having as well, is that air from the car in front that's being pushed around is hampering the following car quite a bit. And unless you have a significant advantage over them in terms of raw pace, you can't overcome that without a mistake.
Which explains about a couple hours ago when we seen the dominance, remember, of Busa and Gray and Cook at one point. They all wanted to test how their car was going to be in dirty air, I think, for a reason, right? They want to see what happens if Justice is coming in. Justice is coming in. And Hogan's trying to counter.
So they both come in together. Justice was very early coming in, and Hogan came in a bit later.
I think he got hit, though. Hogan got hit by Bollinger trying to duck it in. Yeah, right there. I don't think he knew that Hogan was trying to cut him off there and actually damaged the right rear rather, of the back end of Hogan's car.
It doesn't look too bad. In fact, yeah, it's just a tiny knock and better on the rear than the front, but it might affect him. We'll see. As Hernandez also comes in, leaving Garrett Maines out there on the racetrack and Colton Landis as well.
I think it just
There's
heard
Justice. There's Hogan. Oh, Hogan's got him in the pit stops. But look at that. Justice fires off pit road much better.
Yeah, Hogan spun the tires coming up to the commitment cone. What a back and forth off the pit lane. What is this, 1975?
Nope, then the race will be won by 14 laps. And then Jarrett. 8 tenths then, the gap between them. 57 to go at Darlington. The Southern 500 is proving to be quite the race.
It's been the craziest race of the season by far. Garrett Maines in for his stop. Justice nearly ran over the back end of his teammate and rider. And now Hogan has to be focused on one thing. Using the short run speed that's in this car to have a shot at this race win. He lost a fair bit of time off the pit lane. He is now about a second or so back.
Yeah, that pit stop winner did not work well for him in responding to Justice. We would have been very wary of the undercut Justice would have had with that one lap on fresher tyres, proving to be so critical. We saw that from Malik Ray earlier in the race as well, as he pulled out 10 seconds with a one-lap undercut. Timu Toika running in 6th. Colton Landis comes out behind him. Timu yet to pit. There's Maines on pit road. Justice reclaims the lead.
Yeah, pit lane is wide open. I don't think anyone, as we're seeing, is stretching outside maybe Timo Toika for maybe some lap traffic strategy, hoping for a caution. But I think at this point, I'm wondering if Hogan needs a caution to fix more of that damage, because when they've been in clean space, Justice was about a half a tenth or a tenth quicker now in this run. The problem is Justice is nearly hitting the back end of the traffic trying to run away.
He's running him down now, isn't he?
Well, it helps when you almost run over the back end of Cecil Green. We've seen off the corner exit there before. So Justice is playing with fire, trying to keep as much momentum as he can, not trying to be patient in some of these regards. But remember, Timo Toika is hoping for a caution flag here. Pistol was hoping for one. He's had to come down and pit, has lost his late lap. So if there's a caution, Toika can try and strategize his way onto the lead lap and have an extra set of tires in the pits.
Justice going to go by Harrison Lyon and Seth Knoll with ease. So is Boyd Hogan. They both stay high and out of the way. Again, Hogan quicker on the last lap. 800ths quicker.
Keep in mind all of this as well. Nathan Lyon's just been quietly running, still a minute and 24 seconds back of the race leaders. Give credit to him. He's been trying to drive that damaged car, preserve IR on the backup account. Meanwhile, though, more traffic ahead, a lot of it. This traffic's going to be very thick for the next 20 laps or so, potentially.
Yeah, let's see how this pans out. This could decide the race. Who gets the lap traffic better? David Brown's up there, Levine, Ryder, Pistol, Bollinger. There's a lot of traffic. And the issue, catching, say, David Brown now is not an issue. He's by himself. But when they get to Ryder, Pistol, Crump, they're all battling for position. In fact, Crump's about to lose out to Ryder. Crump's coming to pit road.
Yeah, he held out trying to go to one lap down, but yeah, you're right. It's going to be difficult. Absolutely difficult once those leaders get there. Because if they're side by side, that checks everyone up and opens the door right up for Hogan to try and dive in. So it's all about, again, just the timing on where you reach them at speed. Here they go. That pack is now right in the on their doorstep.
There's Crump getting service as number 30 as Justice squeezes by Bollinger.
Well, that time it held up Hogan.
Catches Toyka in a good spot. Toyka now goes a lap down. Still in lucky dog spot though, if a caution was to come out. Big damage to Toyka's car. Every corner of his machine has damage.
And as Ippolito comes in, yeah, Toyka tried his best there, I think, Ryan, to try and strategize his way onto the lead lap, but instead, he's going to potentially be up to 2-3 laps down once he comes down and pits. I think he has to come down. He's running 30-second lap times. Everybody else on the track is in the 28s or 29s. There he goes.
He's coming in. It goes off nice and early. Trying to get slowed down around the corner. That leaves Seth Ryder in 8th. He's got a lap in hand over 9th place Wesley Pistol, who's actually ahead of him on the racetrack.
Meanwhile, the intriguing thing, some of the teammates are now getting ready to scrap. You have one without a front nose, the other with a front nose. It's more aerodynamically faster, let's put it that way, if you have the front nose. So at this point, Crump is just eating into Gossett's time. The surprising part is, Bridgman's not been able to completely run away from Gossett, despite his no front nose.
Look at the front left of that car. A lot of damage to it as he goes by Tommy Gossett. Loses out to Crump, who just made his stop, don't forget. So he should have some decent pace for quite a while here, Crump. He's got Keith Bridgman in 10th. Not far ahead of him as well.
Also not far ahead is this battle for 3rd here, Ryan, though. Maines went a few laps longer on the tires, and Hernandez is just not running as quick as he was the last stint. He's actually a 10th or so slower than the race leaders. Maines is the quickest car out of the top 4. Likely, he might be able to try and jump Hernandez before the tires equalize. Oh wow, the leaders are still in the traffic, and Hogan's still struggling whenever the ring cleans space because of that right rear damage.
That might be the deciding factor, that little bit of damage to Hogan's car as he tried to squeeze the pit road in front of some of the lap traffic. On board with Maines in the battle for P3, that's Hernandez right in front of him. These guys 4.5 seconds away from the lead now. Just getting some cool air into the car down the front straight. Maybe siding up the corner and now looking for the run out of turn 2. Keeps the car higher for longer and then tries to get the momentum down the back straight, but he can't quite get it that time.
Might take an extra couple laps, says Campbell. Hello.
I thought it was Maines that was going to get held up there by Campbell. And Seth Knoll is flying up behind them as Maines now takes the spot away.
That was dangerous again. Could involve more of the lead cars. My goodness, is now. Justice now leads by 1.4 seconds. Hogan's car is falling off a cliff. He is loose as heck with the damage.
Joshua Campbell's lap times are disastrous at the moment. High 30s, low 31s. So he's been out there for a long time on his tyres. For reference,
he's only 13 laps.
Yeah, Tyler Justice instead of 28.9.
Yeah, I was going to say, pardon me there, Ryan. 13 laps on the stint for Campbell. That's how bad the damage was there, but this is the battle still for the Lucky Dog that's been shaping up for a while, and now there's a buffer car in between with Pistol. Still, Baldridge doing a decent job here to still hold on to this 6th position.
See if Ryder can grab this spot. Baldridge has had an eventful race, hasn't he? Been up and down the order, been in the fence a couple times. That's Wesley Pistol on the fence. Seth Ryder able to get around him. Just when he grabbed the fence as well, it really grabs the car and it's really tricky to get out of it very quickly.
So easy to, how do I phrase this, magnetize almost like to the wall. Where it just sticks you up to the wall and it just takes a couple jabs almost to try and yank it out or try and back it off, and in turn that's where a lot of the checkups and some of the big incidents that happen here at Darlington come into play here on iRacing. But I think part of the factor too is for some of this, you mentioned the aero. Riders trying to go in the aero. You had Pistol that said he pushed up in said aero in that contact with the wall. Wouldn't be surprised to see a couple more of them try and have that. By the way, you see on the left side of your screen, Hogan, that car is busted. 3 seconds lost this stint.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's good news for your leader, though, Tyler Justice, who we love what he's seen in his mirror. He'll probably be hoping that this stays green to the end now, with 38 laps left. Because at the moment, the gap he has is only looking like it's getting bigger.
And Hogan needs a caution. He needs one. That car is way too loose with that damage. Combined with the potential adjustments, that thing is ready to spin out.
It's suddenly dropped off a cliff, hasn't it? It was going alright, but these last few laps, it's become disastrous for him.
And again, I think it's just really the factor that rear damage with the quarter panel especially. You damage that quarter panel and crunch it in, it can cost you up to a half a tenth to a tenth of a second on corner exit because it loses the grip. That's basically the case with Hogan having that crunched in back there. That's really just killing his speed. There's a chance he can still hold on for a top 5, but it's a question of what if.
So there's only 5 cars on the lead lap. Seth Ryder is 6. He's a lap down. He's got the lucky dog now. He took it away from Johnny Baldridge just a moment ago.
And look easy as still that battle is on between Bridgman and Gossett. Have to say that's deflating as a driver to see a modified keep up with you at pace when you still have significantly less damage. Just means you have a lot more work on the drawing board to put up as a team, Ryan, to think about for the future. Or at least for you as a driver. Because Bridgman's a decent driver, especially in the opens. Not so much having the luck tonight his way in that 22.
That was a... Yeah, Hogan hit the fence. That's why Hernandez was so low down the back straight there, giving him a very wide berth.
I don't even know if he's going to hold on to 4th at this point because Hogan, that car is gone. Mentioned the quarter panel damage. He's been nearly spinning it. Every apex off right here. Matches the gas down. Bit of a bobble. Just about smacks the wall as Hernandez just avoided him to get up to 3rd.
Yeah, even Colton's lapping quicker than him. We know Colton's got a lot of damage and has been falling ever since the restart. He's 18 seconds back, 14 back from Hogan. But I'll check lap times this time by. So Hogan puts in a 29.7. Colton, his last lap, 29.4. In fact, he's about to cross the line. We'll see. But, you know, if he keeps hitting that fence, eventually he's going to do some serious damage. 29.4 again from Colton.
It's about 0.3 of a lap difference on average right now. Especially in the past 10 laps. So that's the main concern here too. There might be enough time to get it closed on it, especially if Hogan makes more mistakes with some of the traffic railing in. Speaking of traffic, this is a battle for position. We've seen Brown with some problems. Now Ippolito's trying to dodge some cars. All but the leaders trying to get through.
Oh, he catches it, but he was sliding through the corner after contact. That was Cecil Green, I think, that got into him.
I think it might have been a mix between him and maybe Ippolito. Take a look, because you had Green falling on behind, then you've seen Ippolito get passed on the entry to turn 3. That's why he takes the lower line right here. But when he slides right up, I believe right here, bit of a bop and a massive save by Justice. Green gives him the space to save it, and that could have been what could have changed this entire complexion of the race. Again.
Three seconds he's got in hand over Garrett Maines at the moment. Let's go check their last few laps. I mean, Garrett's been chipping away, actually, over the last couple of laps.
A little bit here and there, but it's not substantial enough. Justice has gained back a few tenths now with some of the traffic Maines has had to deal with. Lost half a second alone, Maines did last time by. So that time's starting to balance its way back, and now Hernandez is still keeping reach. Everybody is starting to get loose here now. Hernandez is loose.
They're all loose. Was that a popped engine?
That's Ippolito.
Yep. I saw that telltale puff of smoke into turn 3 and wondered who it was. There's the culprit.
And I don't think that's going to trigger a caution. He is right next to the bottom of the racetrack. This is on the apron, doesn't usually trigger it. Here's a look, and this is right in front of that battle for second. Going up at full speed, trying to hold on to track position. Then this is going actually to turn 1. Bam. Bye-bye goes the motor. Just quick enough in turn to just coast his way into the lane.
On board with that second place, Garrett Maines. We said was chipping away at the leader. Well, Jonathan Hernandez has been chipping away at him, and he's all over bumper now. His long run pace, not bad, as they just dip under 3 seconds behind for a moment.
And if I'm wondering just a little bit when it comes to the ERG's point of perspective, they sacrificed middle run speed for tire management for the long run. It's helped Hernandez in some of these situations. It might help him here. He's been running around, if not in front of Maines for much of this final third of the race. All while you see Hogan have a moment in the backdrop, but now Hernandez just trying to get some cleaner air. Trying to try some different lines here to get a run on Maines.
Look at that wall of lap traffic in front. That's the group that Charles Justice had some issues getting through a few laps ago.
It's going to be pretty tricky for some of these cars here. Keep in mind, Ryder with a decent buffer for the lap car. As the lucky dog, and Hernandez just stuffed in the fence all the while the race leader has gained another couple 100s as a result.
"22 laps left to go of 500 miles at Darlington, and there's just 3 seconds in it between our top 3. How close is that off the exit of the corner? As they get by Andrew Skelnick, or at least Maines does, and Hernandez will have to go through there as well. But Maines has opened up the gap to him now.
Now that's going to hurt his chances now, trying to fight for second. Another half a second loss to the race leader as a result in all of this because of that holdup. So at this point, coming to 20 laps to go, as long as nothing happens, it's Justice's race. There's a car at the bottom of the racetrack, though, with some problems now. believe that's Justin Levine who's popped the motor now.
Motors are going, and as the damage you picked up at the start of the race starts to mess with your engine temps, it creates this. Engines going boom at the end of the race. And in fact, that's not pit road he's on, that's the back straight.
That's the old pit road, technically.
Yeah.
Either way, just try and coast it if you're in that situation, as, again, that is for position you just seen, by the way. J.D. Willis, it's not been his night. He's 6 laps down. He's been involved in some trouble. He lost a few laps early on. He was in the 20s during the opening long green flag runs of the race. On the right side, he might be able to be near the middle of the pylon by the checker flag. In fact, he's just about dead even to the middle, if he can somehow get to Seth Knoll.
Yeah, he'll pick up a little bit of R rating as a result. Finish mid-pack, you generally get it. They're sure to say number 1. Seth Ryder and Johnny Balderidge are still battling for that lucky dog spot. Remember, Ryder took it away, but Balderidge has not let him get too far ahead. Only sitting about 8 tenths behind.
Yeah, I think Baldridge's car is just falling off a cliff now a little bit. It's not as good on the longer run compared to what we've seen now from Ryder and now Maines. Now that the night time's kicked up, it was actually the opposite at some points of the evening. But at this point, Baldridge still in a decent spot for a top 10. It's still about 7 seconds back to the next position, Timo Toyka, who is also, by the way, 2 laps down.
Timu's pretty comfortable in his spot as well. The only other car 2 laps down is Wesley Pistol, and he's nowhere near him on the racetrack. Ooh, Timu just grabbed the fence. As Bill Bollinger squeezed by him. Here's a replay.
I believe this is Jake Hickson. Last car running on the racetrack, and it's not been a pretty one. That's a big old Darlington stripe to the right side of his race car as a result of that massive scrape.
Oh. Ooh. And then he got loose out of turn 2. So tight in 4, loose in 2. That's a great condition.
Yeah, I'm not sure how exactly to adjust for that one. But yeah, chance to gain some spots because Bill Bollinger just DNF'd out of the race. Hickson can now finish as high as 21st. And with all of this, Ryder's lost some time. Now to Baldridge, as Baldridge now back in the aero push, just lost half a tenth back right off the corner, nearly slapping it.
Hernandez, what happened to Hernandez's pace? He was right there with Maines and he's completely fallen away. We saw that laps car spread them apart slightly, but he's really fallen now. He's about 1.5 seconds back from Garrett now.
Yeah, here's a look of him right now, and we've seen him a little bit loose before. I'm wondering if that looseness is coming in right there. A bit of a bobble off the corner, losing more time. I think the right rear is starting to overheat a little bit, as we've seen from a couple cars now with the late nighttime conditions. But the main thing also has been, you slide the tires a couple times, Ryan. That just completely kills the life of the tires. I'm wondering if Fernandez trying to avoid some of these cars that slid the tires, technically trying to dart to the bottom side, and in turn, just killed all the goodie out of the tires, and in turn, now is dealing with this the rest of the run.
Yeah, 12 to go. He's not got much left in this one. None of them do. Tyler Justice is looking very comfortable for what will be his first win on a Friday night in NIS on 2020. But he's the number 2 driver in the session, so his R rating is well up there. He's one of the quicker drivers.
keep in mind, Justice is more so known for his ability in B Open, more than in A Open. Runs a lot of Xfinity Series races in that respective car, can dominate in those races as a driver. Tonight, I'm wondering, with the performance we've seen from some of those team drivers tonight, if that's a statement want to be made by the heads of that organization saying, we want to be known as more than just that team for the trucks or Xfinity. What they want to carry that speed now to the Cup cars the rest of the way with 9 to go.
I mean, it's not been a straightforward race. Far from it. I mean, at one point we were singing the praises of Mally Gray, maybe breaking records for the biggest win in NIS. He led by a lap before halfway. And then he wrecked. He had that wild restart when no one was behind the pace car as it peeled off. And now we've got just 5 cars on the lead lap. Colton looking like he's just going to hang on to the lead lap. 22 seconds back at the moment.
Christian Swanson's probably smiling right now, the team owner, one of its main drivers, seeing Tyler Justice perform like this. I've seen speed from him like this before. Not usually in this type of car. This is going to raise some eyebrows and put a spotlight on him maybe for 2021 for the RTP side, if I dare say. Because he's got the rate to potentially run in top split in 2021 if he elects to do so. And if he performs like this at that level, he may be able to try and qualify for the top 20.
7 to go. The race leader. To bring home one of the crown jewels in the schedule, both real and virtual. Of course, NIS follows the real-life calendar, which is now fully aligned back with how it should have been. And the Darlington 500 is one of the crown jewels of the year. It's one of just 4 full-length races we have in NIS. The rest are all half-length. Darlington, this one, Daytona 500, Coca-Cola 600, and there is a 4th, isn't there, Justin?
Brickyard was full distance this year, 160 laps. And that one, remember, Lyon put on the clinic at that time.
Yep.
In this final third of the race, Justice is driven impressively. He's been a top 5 car all night, mind you, even when Malik Ray was lapping the field. He was continuing to fight back and forth for a third, fourth, or fifth at any point during the run. So this car, it's darn quick. The question still remains, though, if Hogan didn't get hit in the back end by Bollinger during that pit stop sequence, what would happen to the battle for the race win? That's the biggest question mark you have to think about with the final 3 laps here.
Leslie Pistol about to go a 3rd lap down here. As Teller Justice cruises up behind him. And it's 2 to go now.
Remember, if they get the white flag, the race is official. Looking like a majority of the field is spread out. No signs of trouble throughout the final corners here for the 21 cars still circulating the track. This is Justice's race to lose. 2.67 seconds now, the gap with the traffic white flag.
One more lap at Darlington. I think Justice now has just backed off a little bit. He's bringing this one home. His mains sits 2.7 back. Tyler Justice. What a drive from him through all the craziness, the chaos, the attrition in the middle phase to stay in this race. At a turn 4 for the final time, the Southern 500. Tyler Justice dominates the final half and he wins at Darlington.
What a race. One with a lot of twists, turns, and bizarre moments. Here's another one. How about the battle for 6 still on?
Ryder's just gonna fend him off. Baldrige couldn't quite get there. As they cross the line, Ryder takes it. It was dominant second half of Justice, but not dominant to the effect of Ray. Dominant to the effect of no one could get by him, and he just held the gap he needed to hold ever since he got the lead. And he celebrates now. Down to that front, straight. Very much a race of 2 halves. Plus a 210 lap green flag run in the middle. Let's go through our full result. Let's go through our full results from the end of the race here at Darlington. As Justice takes home a winning margin of 2.6 seconds from Garrett Maines. Jonathan Hernandez will finish in 3rd. Boyd Hogan 4th and Colton Landers 5th. Good drive from him to hold on. Seth Ryder 6th, Johnny Baldrige 7th, Timo Toika 8th. Wesley Pistel just keeps himself 2 laps down in 9th, and Scott Crump 10th. First car 3 adrift.
Keith Bridgman 3 laps down as well, 11th position. Tommy Gossett 4 laps down in 12th. 13th goes to Matthew Benson with Nathan Harrison lying in 14th. David Brown finished 5 laps down in 15th. Seth Knoll 16th, 6 laps down, right in front of J.D. Willis. Andrew Skelnick finished 8 laps down in 18th. Green and Campbell round out your single-digit lap down cars and your top 20 finishers.
Jake Hickson, Bill Bollinger, Ty Polito, Justin Levine, Sean Powell, Marley Correa 26 in the end. After one of the most dominant opening stanzas of a race I've ever seen. Jose Salas Jr. 27th, Ken Cook 28th, Patrick Moose, Ken Rush, and then Matt Booster and Thomas Keane round out the 32-car field. Let's have a chat to Tyler Justice. You get the win on a Friday night in NAS after just a completely crazy race.
Yeah, that was insane right there. First of all, I got to thank all my teammates at Phase 2 Motorsports, especially Matthew Benson and Sean Powell. They didn't have the race they wanted to tonight, but they put one hell of a setup together, and we came away with it. I really shouldn't have been up here anyway, but with all the good guys having their problems and backing out there. But still, we put together, the best race we could have. I felt like we're at least a 7th place car in the beginning there, but I don't know. That's crazy how it fell our way, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, the first half of the race, it was a case of, best of the rest, wasn't it? You're all up, down.
Right, yeah.
And then it sort of opened up. Ignoring the fact we're all up, down, the first half of the race is often weird anyway, because you generally want the car set up for the last half, don't you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, we were testing at night anyway, and I knew it was going to get better at nighttime. But early there, like I said, we were running inside the top 10 somewhere around 9th, 8th, or 7th, around there before all the other guys had their problems, like I said. But no, it was one hell of a race, and I'm glad it played out like that for us. I think with Boyd having to pit there on that one caution there after he stayed out, and him getting behind us and us getting clean air was really the difference. And I knew on that last run when we restarted like 100 to go or something, I knew I was going to have to come down pit road before he did, or he was going to be long gone, because my car didn't seem to equalize to those guys until about the middle to later half of the run. So we tried to get down pit road early there and almost hit the barrels, and luckily kept it out of the barrels. And he actually was coming off pit road there in front of us, and I knew it was going to be loose coming off the apron right there, but I had to hammer down and try to get back in front of him, or it was going to be over. So just glad it played out like that. Like I said, I got to thank all my teammates at Phase 2 and Matthew and Sean for putting together a heck of a set. Thank all of our sponsors. I know I ain't got my sponsored car on right now, but thank Gearhead Coffee, Mixers Muscle Cars, and Amzil for everything they do for us. And thank you guys.
Hey, thank you very much, Charles. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations on a win. Well deserved.
Thank you, sir.
That was Tyler Justice walking away with the race victory at the end of one of the tougher races we've seen all season long, and Justin Prince is setting well with Garrett Maines.
Yes, indeed. First things first, Garrett. Very entertaining race. How are you feeling about second place tonight?
Way better than expected. I got into this race. I knew I didn't have much time, with the car. I probably only had about 60 laps coming in here. not even with the same setup that I raced. So I knew going in I was going to be a little tight, and it turned out to be really tight. I was going to make some changes before we even started, but I was talking to the team, and they're like, no, it's wrecking loose when you get on the track. So I was like, I don't really know, where to go with this. I decided not to loosen it up and kind of live to regret that. But in the end, I kind of went in with the attitude of, hey, we got a top 5 car here. Well, top 8, but maybe I can luck into a top 5. A few people dropped out. I'm like, man, we can get top 3 here, top 3. Then there at the end, I was like, man, we can get the win. What can we do to get the win? So second place is way more. If you'd asked me at the beginning of the night, I would have been extremely happy with it. But I definitely would have liked to be in Tyler's spot right now, but it just didn't work out. Caught some lap traffic at the wrong time and really got caught off guard. But with the early pit call there, I didn't expect people to pit. Like, that was 10 laps earlier on that last stop than I thought it would be. I really wanted to undercut everybody, just didn't get the chance there, and we tried something else, but just came up 2.6 seconds short.
Answered a lot of the questions I think a lot of us had after tonight's race from your perspective, but we go short track racing next. Richmond, a track that is very fond to your heart, around from your region, and also the track in which you are part of its development program. Your thoughts going there under the lights. Expect to be a wild one.
Yeah, for sure, especially with it being week 14 this time around. I think we'll get to put some extra time in the car, and with work, I think I'll be able to make the schedule work to where I can get some laps at the track and just get the car where I want it to be. Hopefully I'll get to run next Friday night, and we'll have a good showing.
Before I ask you the final question, I want to ask one thing. You are in the championship lead for the point standings. Currently, with that massive gap, with the drop weeks currently in a decent position, how are you feeling about the overall NIS championship, by the way?
As long as I can continue to show up every week, I feel like, I've learned enough personally, and I know the team, knows enough that, even if we start having some bad results here and there, we've had solid results week in, week out. And, I think it's going to take some serious mishaps to really throw this one away. But, everybody over at ESC has really made it possible, and it's first time I've ever gone for points in NIS, and it's been one heck of a season so far. So thank you to everybody over there.
And anyone else you want to thank on top of that?
Yeah, I got to thank Smithfield, 101 CBD, SimSeats, Strickland Hardy, all those guys. I got to thank Richmond Raceway Esports and all the guys at Elliott Sadler Esports for all their support. And hopefully we'll get to show that next week at Richmond Raceway.
Congratulations on the P2 tonight in what was a chaotic one.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Garrett Maines, P2 in the interesting 500-mile race at Darlington.
Yep. And we'll have a chat as well, a fun interview, with Jonathan Hernandez, P3. Jonathan, it's a good result. Is it a result you're happy with?
I am more than happy. I'm ecstatic. I'm trying to keep my mind cool right now, but it finally feels good to get a good run, especially here. It is a tough track, especially full race, and I'm more than happy with that third.
Yeah, it was a wild race. You had at one point, it seemed the pace maybe to get by Mange and then maybe go up and challenge Tyler, but you seemed to just really fall off suddenly, very suddenly, in that final stint. Was it just a case of tires, or maybe just preserving your result?
It was just, everything changing, especially since, it was already nighttime. Car just got a little too loose. We made a change under the stop, see if it could help out from the tightness, and it just made it a little too free. And I feel like a couple of changes back that we probably could have done, it would have been perfect. But Maines, Boyd, Tyler, they were fast all night. Especially with Malik and the other co-drivers, everybody was, they were fast. And for me to be able to keep up with them, especially during those last stints, I am, it just says a lot how much I've, came, especially from a year ago today.
Yeah, it's always good to look back on past results and look at your improvement. So looking to improve them. Well, next week we go to Richmond. It's a short track. Very much possible it could be as crazy as tonight was. How are your expectations heading in there?
It's probably gonna be challenging more than here. You know, it's like I said, short track. We got the low downforce package, so higher horsepower and everything. Especially after the build comes out, we don't know what's gonna come with the build. But we're ready to tackle it. Head on in there, see what we can do with it. Hopefully, get another strong result as we did tonight. You know, we're just gonna carry this momentum on for the next few weeks, tackle these next 2 short tracks, and just see what results we can get.
And who do you want to thank for helping you get it done today and get a solid result from Darlington?
I'd like to thank, of course, my new team, Esports Racing Group. ERG had Chris Roberts on the box tonight helping me out. You know, everyone over there from Rachel to Cameron, Alan, Jeff, Daniel, you know, everyone all the way over there, Larry, Laura. We all, you know, put a lot of time going in this week. So without them, you know, I wouldn't have this strong result. And, you know, I like to thank, of course, my family supporting me through all this. I know they're ecstatic with the run I got tonight. And, you know, just ready for next week.
Hey, well, good job today, Jonathan. That's a fantastic result. I'm sure you're happy. I'm sure your family are happy. And your teammates as well. Good job today, and hopefully talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
Jonathan Hernandez finishes in 3rd. And with that, Justin, I think it's time to wrap up our show from Darlington Raceway. What a fantastic night of racing.
It had it all, so to speak. You had a dominating performance. You had a long green flag run. You had pit strategy. And then you had mayhem settle its way in. And intrigue. And drama. In the end, we learned a lot potentially for what may be expected come Tuesday, Ryan, for the Cup Series. We also learned a lot on some of these drivers and how they were able to handle themselves in these scenarios. Overall, you have to get credit once again, first of again to your winner, Tyler Justice, in winning this race and having raw pace inside the top 5 much of the night. But you also can't forget about the performances for drivers like Ray and Hogan, who, if they didn't have an incident at a certain point, they're likely winning this race. That's how much this race changed in the complexion of one moment several times tonight.
And with that, we'll wrap things up here from Darlington. Thank you all for joining us here on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure to go and like iRacing on Facebook as well. But go like SimSpeed Esports Network on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts over the course of the week. Same time next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Friday night, racing from Richmond Raceway. Going to be plenty of fun. But for tonight, from myself, Ryan Jones, from Justin Prince alongside me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got rhythm. Both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no.
That's massive.
This is it.
This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?